Chapter 1850. That was the 100 Races Alliance's victory. The human race was the leader. Too many elites of the 100 races had died, so there were many remnants. It's an opportunity to enter the reincarnation battlefield. Our nine-tailed fox clan also had an ancestor who died there, so we should enter if we can, Zizhen said. If I want to join the first army of the 100 Races Alliance, then I have to work according to Knight Sorrow's wishes. Bai Lingling was somewhat reluctant. Knight Sorrow is the Merit Emperor. Is it shameful to work under him? Do you think you're nobler than those in the Humanitarian League? If you can't think about your clan, then go back now. After hearing Bai Lingling's words, Zizhen could not suppress her anger and immediately glared at Bai Lingling. Bai Lingling trembled. This was the first time the good-tempered Zizhen lost her temper in front of her clan. Seeing that Bai Lingling was silent, Zizhen snorted coldly. Only a few people know about this. Why did the Golden Dragon King leave Long Jean in the Humanitarian League? Is Ancestor Green Rock also willing to put his grandson in the Humanitarian League? It's all for this matter. Open the space-time channel and send the highest cultivation level into the reincarnation battlefield. If it's an emperor, then the space-time channel will not be stable, so this time the first army of the Heaven Wasteland Army will be in charge. The Grand Elder and King Yo Wu were talking in the Grand Elder's small world about the reincarnation battlefield. They did not tell Knight Sorrow because Knight Sorrow had to enter the Heaven Wasteland Tower for a period of time. They did not want to distract Knight Sorrow during this time. About opening the space-time channel, we'll have to trouble you, Grand Elder, King Yo Wu said to the Grand Elder. #P version J equals first 8 shots, it's nothing. The two city lords can't have any mishaps. They have to be in their best condition at all times because we don't know when the demon-winged clan will attack. The black dragons are also a hidden danger. The Grand Elder nodded. In the past, I've always considered the feelings of the Golden Dragon King and the Cyan Dragons, so I didn't attack them ruthlessly. This time, when they attacked the Blood Chelan clan, they obviously have no bottom line. I can tolerate it the first time, but I can't tolerate it the second time. Later, I will talk to the Golden Dragon King and make a trip to the Azure Dragons. Last time, Brother Tran Hung also didn't give the Azure Dragon's face, King Yo Wu said. King Yo Wu said that the last time the Azure Dragons came to ask Tran Hung why the members of the other races of the 100 Races Alliance couldn't be listed on the Celestial and Demon ranking. In the end, they were slapped away by Tran Hung. The Azure Dragon King didn't know Tran Hung's identity, so he asked the 100 Races Alliance's Council of Elders to make a decision. The human race directly rejected it, which made the Azure Dragons feel embarrassed. Therefore, in recent years, the Azure Dragons didn't participate in some of the 100 Races Alliance's activities. The Grand Elder nodded. Things had to be resolved. The Golden Dragon King was the leader of the dragons, so the Black and Azure Dragons also needed to be discussed with him. Knight Sorrow and the others didn't know about this situation and were celebrating. Knight Sorrow took the first vanguard position and obtained the opportunity to enter the Wasteland Tower. The Humanitarian League also became famous. Everyone was happy and drank a little more wine. The next day, a group of people came to the martial arts arena in high spirits. A day ago, not many members of the 100 Races Alliance knew Knight Sorrow. When they saw the Humanitarian League seats, they snorted and looked down on them. However, it was different now. When they saw Knight Sorrow and the others, they all nodded in acknowledgement. The Humanitarian League was strong and had many backers. Knight Sorrow's cultivation was low, but his potential was huge. In addition, in the last stage yesterday, Knight Sorrow stood on the arena and challenged more than 20 contenders for the first vanguard position. His domineering aura was admirable. Tiger Cold cupped his hands at Knight Sorrow, and Flower Without Words also nodded in acknowledgement. Knight Sorrow cupped his hands in return. He had a good impression of these people. To be able to cultivate to the monarch realm, one's temperament was very important. Of course, there were also people with extreme temperaments and couldn't bear the pressure, or their temperament changed after some achievements. They couldn't be generalized. Heaven's Cliffs was an example. 13th brother, you look so handsome wearing Night Moon's king battle armor. Yi Mei smiled. Hee hee. Yesterday, I gave that nine-tailed fox clans by Lingling a hard time. You won't be troubled when you go back, right? But don't worry, 13th brother, will trouble whoever makes things difficult for you. Night Sorrow turned around and patted Yi Mei's shoulder. Yeah. I'm not afraid of trouble. Yi Mei smiled. Brother, you're so good to Yi Mei. Lin Yu said with a smile. You call me brother. If anyone dares to bully you, I'll greet them with my fists. Night Sorrow waved his hand at Lin Yu. The battle for the first commander position began under the supervision of the judges and Emperor Tang. The battle this time was completely a performance by the Great Demon King and Fen Tian. The two of them sent golden bricks flying everywhere, and no one could stop them. This made the contenders for the first commander position in the 100 Races Alliance shudder in fear. Whoever was hit by the golden bricks would feel pain. The Great Demon King and Fen Tian were strong. One of them had passed the 6 tribulations of the heavenly law, while the other had passed the 5 tribulations of the heavenly law. When there were only a dozen people left, the Great Demon King and Fen Tian met. The two of them bumped their golden bricks together. Fen Tian smiled. It's meaningless to fight anymore. Rock, scissors, paper. The Great Demon King and Fen Tian began a new round of rock paper scissors. Knock down half of the remaining ones for me. The rest is yours. Fen Tian, who lost the rock paper scissors game, said with a smile. All right, I'll help you get your share. The Great Demon King nodded. Boring. I was hoping that they would clash. They suddenly stopped playing. The Golden Dragon King was very dissatisfied. They are brothers. They are playing together to kill the enemy, not each other. Qi Rui said. Why didn't Lin Piaomiao fight? The Golden Dragon King asked. She's married. After a woman gets married, she calms down and looks down on these fights. They are all members of the Humanitarian League. As long as the first commander is in the Humanitarian League, it's enough. The Grand Elder said. Who is so lucky? The Green Rock Patriarch was very interested. He wanted to know who Lin Piaomiao was married to. Qi Rui lifted his chin and pointed at Night Sorrow. It's Night Sorrow. My Blood Qilin clan also owes them a big favor. A few days ago, the Black Dragons attacked the Blood Qilin mountain while I was saving my daughter. At that time, Elder Lin was present. She risked her life to hold back the 2 Black Dragons' elders. At that time, she was only a clone. It wasn't easy for her to hold back the 2 Black Dragons' elders. Qi Rui said. I see. Qi Rui, I'm sorry. The Golden Dragon King cupped his hands at Qi Rui. I don't blame you. However, I can't let go of the Black Dragons. They really have no bottom line. They caused trouble when I was saving my daughter and almost made me suffer the pain of losing my daughter. This has crossed my bottom line. I hope you can understand, Golden Dragon King. Qi Rui said. The Golden Dragon King looked up at the sky. There were some things he couldn't understand. He went to find the Black Dragon King, but the Black Dragon King refused to see him. Chapter 1851. There was a reason for the formation of the 100 Races Alliance. It was because of the ambition of the Demon-Winged clan. The Demon-Winged clan was not native to the celestial realm. They were outsiders. The environment of their world was harsh. It was not as good as the celestial realm. It was not as peaceful as the celestial realm. Generation after generation, they had always wanted to overthrow the rule of the celestial realm and turn the celestial realm into the demon-winged clan's world. The native races of the celestial realm naturally did not allow it. Therefore, they had been fighting for countless years and several reincarnations. This was the crisis of the 100 races of the celestial realm. Therefore, resisting the demon-winged clan was the consensus of the 100 races of the celestial realm. But now, although the black dragons did not explicitly express that they were on the same side as the demon-winged clan, they had always cooperated with the demon-winged clan. It was as if they were a nail in the 100 Races alliance. The Black Dragon clan's actions made it very difficult for the various branches of the Dragon clan to deal with themselves. The Green Dragon clan and White Dragon clan did not participate in the 100 Races Alliance conference this time because they were caught in the middle and were in a difficult position. The Golden Dragon King had to come because he knew that the other dragons would not come. If he did not come, it would mean that the dragons had left the 100 Races Alliance. Now that Chirui mentioned this, the Golden Dragon King could no longer remain silent. Golden Dragon King, I am very happy that you have come to attend the 100 Races Alliance conference. Your coming is a sign of your attitude. Your attitude is enough, King Yawu said. I am the Golden Dragon King of the Celestial Realm. Therefore, my beliefs are unwavering. It's just that I am unable to control my subordinates. For many years, the various branches of the dragons have been autonomous. There are some things that I am not clear about. The Golden Dragon King shook his head. It's better to go and find out more. Because we all belong to the 100 races of the Celestial Realm, even if the Black Dragons have gone overboard these years, we have not been ruthless. However, they have gone overboard this time. Chirui is our old friend. Don't we feel bad about this situation? King Yawu said. The Golden Dragon King sighed and patted Chirui's shoulder. Give me some time. We need to get to the bottom of this. Chirui clenched his fists. After a moment, he nodded. He knew that the Golden Dragon King was in a difficult position, and since he had spoken, he had to give him face. The Great Demon King on the stage was in high spirits. He also started a group battle without leaving the stage. No one could defeat him. He was now at the 6th tribulation of the Heavenly Tao. Fighting against ordinary emperors was like bullying. This guy is having a good time. He's bullying us. Yu Zhu said. To be able to cultivate to such an extent within a minor epoch, that's his ability. Others have no choice but to accept it, said Pu Luo. What are you laughing at? Reese asked. What are you laughing at? Look at the eyes of the other elders. They are very envious that we can sit here. Who doesn't envy us for having a human Tao gold brick in our hands? Pu Luo took the gold brick and tossed it up and down. Pu Luo tossed the gold brick in a very cool manner. Long Jin was interested. He took out his large gold brick and played with it, causing many people to look over. Long Jin, this isn't for slapping people. It's for smashing people. If the target doesn't deserve to die, you have to take it easy. You'll be smashed into a meat patty if you throw it out, Lin Piaomio said with a smile. That's a little awkward. Long Jin put away the large gold brick. Everyone looked at Long Jin in disdain. They also glanced at the Golden Dragon King. This was because the large gold brick was made by the Golden Dragon King. The Great Demon King stood on the stage with a weapon in one hand and a gold brick in the other. No one went up because it was too cruel. The gold brick was aimed at the head. No one went up. Emperor Tang announced that the Great Demon King would be the first commander of the Heaven Wasteland Army. King Yawu stood up and emphasized the importance of the Heaven Wasteland City and the significance of the 100 Races Alliance's existence. He wanted all cultivators to have the spirit of improvement. The Heaven Wasteland City would give you a big stage based on your ability. He also hoped that the young cultivators of various races would interact more. The meeting was then adjourned. The competition for the first commander and first vanguard of the 100 Races Alliance had come to an end. However, the people of various races did not leave. The Heaven Wasteland City was dominated by the human race, but other races also participated. They all had seats in the Council of Elders and also had their own encampments. They could not go back immediately after coming to the Heaven Wasteland City. This kind of scene could also broaden the horizons of the younger generation. Night Sorrow and the others returned to the courtyard, which seemed a little small. After returning to the courtyard, Pu Luo slammed the table and said with some dissatisfaction, "You're so inefficient. At this time, you still haven't arranged a decent residence for us. The first vanguard has to call friends. Isn't this place shabby? Pu Luo, you're too unkind. You're the law enforcement elder of the Heaven Wasteland City. Can't you arrange these things? You even slammed the table. Who are you trying to scare?" Qin Qinjie appeared in Night Sorrow's courtyard. "It's true that I'm the law enforcement elder, but I'm not in the law enforcement period right now." "Isn't Lu Qi in the law enforcement period now? Can't you do this?" Pu Luo said. "You don't know how busy 7th Elder is during the 100 Clan Alliance conference, so he asked me to make arrangements for this matter." "Night Sorrow, let's go and take a look at the new residence," Qin Qinjie said. Point. F***CK. I'm satisfied. Anything is fine. If you're not satisfied, then we'll return to the Divine Martial City. Our Night Moon Villa is also comfortable, Pu Luo said. Pu Luo, you're really a good-for-nothing. It's fine if you don't help, but you're dragging us down. Besides, when has our Heaven Wasteland City mistreated capable and meritorious members? Qin Qinjie tapped the ground with his cane. Our Alliance Master killed 5 Demon Wing Emperors and even swindled tens of millions of Sacred Spirit Stones and Divine Ash Stones from the Demon Wing clan. Isn't this meritorious service? You've all forgotten about it, Pu Luo muttered. You have to understand that it's us, not you. You didn't do anything either. Pu Luo, I see that you don't even blink when you betray others. Qin Qinjie then walked out of the courtyard. She had already arranged a new residence for Night Sorrow. The new residence was much more impressive. It was several times the size of the previous courtyard. Not only in terms of size, but also in terms of layout and architecture, it was very classy. Thank you for your trouble, Sect Elder Qin. Night Sorrow cupped his fists to express his gratitude. Qin Qinjie looked at Pu Luo and said, I have to. You have no good people around you. If I drag you to the divine capital to live, everyone will lose face. Pu Luo turned his head to the side and refused to meet Qin Qinjie's gaze. Misty thanked Sect Elder Qin on behalf of my husband. Lin Misty bowed to Qin Qinjie. Qin Qinjie used to take good care of her. Last time, she also went to Qin Qinjie for Night Sorrow's matter. Qin Qinjie didn't refuse at all. Misty, you're too polite. There's nothing wrong with you and Night Sorrow. It's just that someone has a bad heart. Qin Qinjie glanced at Pu Luo one more time and left. You guys continue chatting. I won't be accompanying you today. The enforcement elders of the 100 Clans Elder Council have a meeting. I have to go. Pu Luo said. Something big? Great Demon King asked. Chapter 1852. Even if something big happens, it's just a battle. It's not a big deal. Ruisi, Yuju, prepare the wine. The Great Demon King shouted. Night Sorrow smiled. It might be a complicated matter, but it was simple for the Great Demon King. In fact, it was just a battle. Long Jin, Tianyu, congratulations on your rapid rise and entering the Imperial Emperor realm. Night Sorrow poured a cup of wine and raised it to Long Jean and Tianyu. Ye Mei, the nine-tailed fox clan's talent is not inferior to the other divine beast clans. Why didn't you enter the Imperial Emperor realm? Tianyu asked. I'm different from you. I encountered some problems after I was sent to the nine-domain world. My body was destroyed and I was reincarnated. Fortunately, the silver fox had the nine-tailed fox bloodline, so it didn't affect me too much. This time, after returning to the clan and entering the ancestral land, I mainly purified the bloodline and focused on building my foundation. Ye Mei explained her situation. Night Sorrow understood a little. When he first met Ye Mei, a silver fox had just given birth. Ye Mei was indeed the silver fox's child. Everyone has different lives, but the results are good. Ye Mei may have been unhappy in the past, but from now on, just live happily. Night Sorrow said. Ye Mei nodded. Having 13th brother in this life is the happiest thing for me. By the way, I have a sister who is especially good to me. Can I bring her over later? Of course. Night Sorrow nodded. While they were talking, Lin Yun arrived at Night Sorrow's place. Princess, are you worried about Lin Yu? Don't worry. She's fine here. Night Sorrow invited Lin Yun to sit down and said. No, I'm not worried. I'm here to congratulate you. Also, I told my father that the Blood Scale clan's clan leader is more suitable for second brother. I plan to join the Humanitarian League in the future. I'm not bad. Lin Yu said with a smile. Sure. I warmly welcome you. Night Sorrow said with a smile. After interacting with Lin Yun for a period of time, Lin Yun gave Night Sorrow a good impression. She had a high status and was the eldest princess of the Blood Qilin clan. However, she didn't put on any airs and didn't have an arrogant aura. Now, all the little sisters are ganging up on our Humanitarian League. That's good, but League Master, we need to collect materials. We can't skimp on the human Dao gold bricks. I don't have many materials to refine the human Dao gold bricks, Pu Luo said. That won't be a problem. Whatever you need, I'll go back to my family and look for it, Lin Yun said. After that, Tianyu, Ye Mei, and Long Jean all said that they could find the materials. Night Sorrow left and returned to the encampment to call her sisters. She was very happy that Night Sorrow had agreed to take care of her sister and join the Humanitarian League. A moment later, Ye Mei brought a woman in white to Night Sorrow's new residence. Sister Meng Meng, let me introduce you. Ye Mei pulled the woman beside her and introduced her to Night Sorrow and the others. The woman in white was called by Meng Meng, the granddaughter of the nine-tailed fox clan's great elder. Bai Meng Meng cupped her hands and greeted Night Sorrow and the others. I originally wanted to pay a visit. I planned to join the Heaven Wasteland Army's first army, but my cultivation isn't the top among the Imperial Emperors, so I'm not confident, Bai Meng Meng said after sitting down. I'm not very clear about the details of the Heaven Wasteland Army's first army. I need to take over and understand it. However, I think that it shouldn't be a problem for a mid-level Imperial Emperor to join the Heaven Wasteland Army. Night Sorrow said. If you can join, then join. If you can't, then we'll wait, Ye Mei said. This is very important. I must try my best. If I join in the future, I might miss the reincarnation battlefield. Bai Meng Meng shook her head. Reincarnation battlefield. Night Sorrow and the others didn't understand. Bai Meng Meng looked at Night Sorrow and the others. After hesitating for a while, she told them about the news she received from Bai Zizhen. I see. If there's a chance, then fight for it. Sister Meng Meng, don't worry. If it doesn't go against the principles, there won't be a problem if you want to join. Night Sorrow nodded at Bai Meng Meng. Bai Meng Meng stood up. Alliance leader, just call me Meng Meng. Who cares about the battlefield? I still say the same thing. No matter how big the matter is, it's nothing more than a battle. Who here is afraid of battle? The great demon king said. After chatting for a while, Knight Sorrow led the people to distribute the living quarters. The new residence was luxurious. Not to mention 10 people, even 100 or 1,000 people would not be crowded. Knight Sorrow and Lin Piaomiao were naturally in the attic at the core of the courtyard. Knight Sorrow and Lin Piaomiao talked for a while. He felt that no one knew more about the news and understanding of this world than King Yawu. Don't ask for now. When it's suitable for us to know, Martial Uncle will tell us. There must be a reason why he hasn't told us yet, Lin Piaomiao said. How's your recovery? The black dragons are too despicable. I won't let this matter rest. Knight Sorrow looked at Lin Piaomiao and asked. I've already fully recovered. I'm in peak condition now. Lin Piaomiao smiled. After resting for a night and working hard to have children, Knight Sorrow started practicing his spear techniques. Spear techniques were already a part of his life. While Knight Sorrow was practicing his spear, King Yawu came. After stopping his practice, Knight Sorrow invited King Yawu to sit down. Martial Uncle is going back to Yawu Mountain. If you have anything to say, just tell the Grand Elder. If you need anything or can't deal with anything, just go to Yawu Mountain. King Yawu said. He was planning to leave Tianhuang City. Thank you, Martial Uncle. I'd like to ask about the reincarnation battlefield. Knight Sorrow said. You're quite well informed. Originally, Martial Uncle and the Grand Elder wanted to tell you later, mainly because they didn't want you to feel pressured when entering the Tianhuang Tower. It's fine if you know, Martial Uncle will tell you. King Yawu didn't find it strange. After all, Knight Sorrow was surrounded by elites from various races and domains. The reincarnation battlefield was in Nirvana Ocean. It was where the human race led the 100 Race Alliance to fight the demon-winged race in the previous reincarnation. It was where the human emperor and the demon ancestor fell. A large number of elites from the 100 Race Alliance and the demon-winged race died. Update Y% most DH on X hashtag the Tianhuang City Lord was proficient in prediction. He knew that the reincarnation battlefield would appear in Nirvana Ocean. Of course, the demon-winged race might know as well. Therefore, no matter what the situation was, the demon-winged race couldn't get the upper hand. It's just a war with some restrictions. Previously, the demon-winged race opened a space-time tunnel and sent 7 emperors over. Why were they emperors? Because the energy contained in the emperors' bodies was too strong and would cause the space-time tunnel to collapse. This time, it's a competition between the 100 Race Alliance and the demon-winged race. We don't ask for any opportunities. We just need to work hard. However, we can't let the demon-winged race obtain any benefits. Besides, the items from the previous reincarnation are very important. Therefore, you have to go, King Yawu said. Chapter 1853. Time, there may not be enough time. You will be in the Heaven Wasteland Tower for a year. The reincarnation battlefield will appear in 1.5 to 2 years, so you can decide on the specific arrangements yourself. Cultivating the death attribute is not bad. King Yawu nodded. Then I will make arrangements according to the situation. Knight Sorrow nodded. Okay. Also, when you feel that you have reached a certain level, you can study your Master's Sword Dao. However, I feel that you should stabilize it first. Your Spear Dao foundation has just been formed. You can study it after you stabilize it. It will be beneficial for you. King Yawu reminded Knight Sorrow. Knight Sorrow nodded. He knew that this was priceless advice. I am very assured about your situation. Once you have taken care of the matters at hand, you can return to Yawu Mountain to cultivate. King Yawu left after giving another reminder. Not long after King Yawu left, the Grand Elder, the 7 elders, and Pu Luo arrived at Night Sorrow's residence. After sitting down, the Grand Elder told the Great Demon King and Lin Piaomiao that the Great Demon King was officially selected as the Grand Elder's candidate and Lin Piaomiao as the Disciplinary Elder's candidate. The two of them now had the authority of the Disciplinary Elder. Night Sorrow, after meeting you, my official position has been getting higher and higher. Is this luck? The Great Demon King said with a smile. The higher the position, the greater the responsibility. Be more steady in the future. You can't be like before. Once you are steady, you will mature. The Grand Elder looked at the Great Demon King and said, I understand. The Great Demon King nodded. He could ignore the words of others, but the Grand Elder was someone he respected. Piaomiao, I am very assured about you. Seeing you is like seeing the future of the human race. I am very happy, the Grand Elder said. Then the Grand Elder told him about the Heaven Wasteland Army. The Heaven Wasteland Army had a total of 31 armies. Each army had 300 people and 31 senior captains. The first vanguard was the first senior captain. The 3 territories were unified, which meant that there were 10 commanders. However, the first territory was not under the command of any of the commanders. The first vanguard had the right to mobilize on its own. That's not bad. Our 13th brother has always been invincible in the war. If he's under someone else's command and the commander isn't smart enough, then there's no way to fight the war, Tianyu said. Night Sorrow, you don't have to worry about that. Later, the 7th elder will take you to the first army's encampment. Also, the first army will recruit some people, but you have to know that the first army will not accept anyone below the Imperial Emperor level, said the Grand Elder. Don't. Although Yi Mei is a 3-star overlord, she definitely has the strength of an Imperial Emperor. Night Sorrow looked at Yi Mei and said, I'll give you 3 spots, no more than that. In the army, you have to obey orders, the Grand Elder said. Night Sorrow nodded. He knew that this was the rule. It was already good enough to have 3 slots. After the Grand Elder and Lu Qi left, Night Sorrow and the others talked. If I can make the decision to recruit people, Meng Meng won't have a problem. Yi Mei, your 13th brother will definitely bring you along. Night Sorrow looked at White Meng Meng, then patted Yi Mei's shoulder and said, 13th brother, I'm now a 3-star overlord. If I go back to the clan and cultivate in seclusion later, I might not need this slot, said Yi Mei. That's fine. Don't feel pressured. I'll take care of everything, Night Sorrow nodded. Then I'll go back to the clan and cultivate for a while and see if there's a chance, said Lin Yu. Lin Yu's cultivation was lower than Yi Mei's, but she was still a 2-star overlord. This was the dominance of the Divine Beast clan. Even if she was not awake, she was still cultivating. Night Sorrow sighed. He thought of his brothers. He didn't know how his brothers in the God-slaying team were doing, but the threshold for the first army of the Heaven Wasteland Army was too high. There were only 2 emperors in the God-slaying team, let alone imperial emperors. Forever and Free Read and, Novel A, 13th brother, our brothers will all rise. We just need some time. Seeing Night Sorrow's eyes drifting, Tianyu, who had fought side by side with Night Sorrow, knew what Night Sorrow was thinking. Night Sorrow nodded. He knew that the members of the God-slaying team were already working very hard. It was just that the pace was too fast and everyone couldn't keep up. After chatting for a while, Yi Mei and White Meng Meng left. Lin Yun also sent Lin Yu back to cultivate. It was really important to enter the reincarnation battlefield. Everyone wanted to seize the opportunity. On the 3rd day, the Grand Elder came to look for Night Sorrow and the Great Demon King. He wanted to send them into the Heaven Wasteland Pagoda. Pu Luo, Lin Piaomiao, please take care of the Humanitarian League. Night Sorrow nodded to Pu Luo and Lin Piaomiao. He left with the great demon king and the Grand Elder. Only the original body could comprehend the artistic conception and the truth of heaven and earth. However, when the original body comprehended, the doppelganger had to protect the original body. Therefore, the great demon king and Night Sorrow both went with their original bodies. There were 5 towers in the Heaven Wasteland city. Only the middle tower was called the Heaven Wasteland Pagoda. Normally, people could enter the Heaven Wasteland Pagoda, but only into the ordinary space. The true inner space of the Heaven Wasteland Pagoda would only open after the 100 Races Alliance conference. Only the most talented cultivators were qualified to enter. After entering the Heaven Wasteland Pagoda, Night Sorrow originally thought that they would go up. He didn't expect them to go down. After walking for a while, Night Sorrow saw 2 bronze doors wrapped in energy at the end of the underground stairs. In a while, Night Sorrow, you will enter the left one. Great Demon King, you will enter the right one. After entering, you will have a year's time. After a year, the interior will explode with energy and it will no longer be suitable for survival. Therefore, you have to come out. In addition, everyone who enters the Heaven Wasteland space has different experiences and gains, said the Grand Elder. Night Sorrow and the Great Demon King nodded. They had already obtained some information from Lin Piaomiao. Lin Piaomiao had entered the Heaven Wasteland space twice. She had obtained the first vanguard and the first commander. Therefore, she didn't plan to enter this time. She planned to give the opportunity to the Great Demon King and Fan Tian. At the Emperor rank, there was almost no one who could defeat the Great Demon King and Fan Tian. The first commander would definitely be one of them. Fan Tian's strength was lower than the Great Demon King, and his luck wasn't as good as the Great Demon King's. The Great Demon King's strength was stronger than Fan Tian, but he gave Fan Tian a chance. However, Fan Tian lost in rock paper scissors. There was no other way. This opportunity belonged to the Great Demon King. Night Sorrow, the Great Demon King, and the Grand Elder waited. After a moment, an energy phantom appeared. After the phantom appeared, it struck out a few hand seals and the bronze doors opened. The conditions to enter the Heaven Wasteland space are very harsh. Therefore, there is only one opportunity every 1 billion years and 2 billion years. This opportunity is highly valued by the various clans of the 100 Race Alliance. Therefore, after the 2 of you enter, you have to work hard. Besides, it's not like there isn't any danger inside. There are only 2 outcomes after entering the Heaven Wasteland space. Either you walk out standing or fall inside, said the new energy phantom. Night Sorrow and the Great Demon King nodded. Both of them understood that opportunities and risks were directly proportional. Chapter 1854. Night Sorrow and the Great Demon King looked at each other. They had thought that they would be able to take care of each other after entering. However, they had to separate now, which meant that they had to enter different places. Be careful. Don't let the journey of opportunity turn into the path of the devil. The Grand Elder reminded Night Sorrow and the Great Demon King. Alliance leader, be careful. The Great Demon King's body flashed as he entered the bronze door on the right. Night Sorrow also entered the bronze door on the left. Upon seeing Night Sorrow and the Great Demon King enter, the Grand Elder nodded. This is the cultivation path of our human race's ancestors. I hope it will be of help to you. The existence of the Everlasting Tower was mysterious to ordinary cultivators. However, some of the higher-ups of the 100 Race Alliance knew about it. The Everlasting Tower had existed in the previous samsara. It was a protective Dharma treasure of a human race almighty. Now, it was suppressing a space called the Everlasting Space. The Everlasting Space was originally the internal space of the Everlasting Tower. However, the Everlasting Tower was damaged and the space was no longer within the Everlasting Tower. Instead, it needed the Everlasting Tower to suppress it. The everlasting space had followed that human race almighty for a very long time. It recorded the growth and experiences of that almighty. The everlasting space was actually a trial space. After Night Sorrow entered, he realized that it was a gray space. The energy that seeped up from the ground had a familiar feeling. It was the power of merit. Night Sorrow had heard King Yahweh say that the human race's providence was like a dragon. The dragon's head was at Yahweh Mountain and the claw of slaughter was the everlasting space. After sensing it, Night Sorrow realized that it was different. The power of merit here was different from that of Yahweh Mountain. The power of merit that erupted from Yahweh Mountain was peaceful and mighty. However, the power of merit here was more domineering. It had a vast and mighty aura that could crush everything. There was no hurry. Night Sorrow planned to take a look at the everlasting space first before finding a suitable place to cultivate. The spirit chi here was rich enough. As he moved forward, Night Sorrow discovered a spiritual body. It was a spiritual body that was completely composed of energy. The energy contained in its body was at the mid-level Imperial Lord level. While Night Sorrow was observing, the spiritual body launched an attack. Sword techniques, movement techniques, and soul attacks. After the battle began, Night Sorrow discovered that this spirit body was different from the spirit body in Evil Punisher Land. The evil spirits in the Evil Punisher Land were very strong, but they only fought instinctively. However, the soul bodies in this Heaven Wasteland space had even more threatening attacks. After they attacked, they would use one ultimate technique after another. This was a display of their ultimate techniques. Opportunity. This was a fortuitous encounter. If one had the ability to comprehend, they would be able to comprehend an absolute art from their spiritual bodies. After studying it for a while, Night Sorrow realized that these ultimate techniques were not suitable for him, so he killed the soul and continued forward. As Night Sorrow advanced, one soul after another appeared and charged at Night Sorrow. After the victory, Night Sorrow did not gain any resources. After the soul was killed, the energy returned to Infinite Wasteland. Night Sorrow understood that the process was the harvest. The ultimate techniques that these spiritual bodies used in battle had energy trajectories that could be seen through at a glance. It was easy to understand and learn. On the fourth day, Night Sorrow witnessed a palm technique. It was executed by a peak Imperial Lord spiritual body. When the palm technique was waved, it had the ability to stir up the power of heaven and earth. The palm technique's energy contained the power of a domain. It had the effects of control, confinement, and time acceleration and deceleration. Night Sorrow was interested in this ultimate technique. He sent his clone to fight while his main body slowly studied and deciphered it. You forever free of Z fees to C small, say % in order to delay the battle and have more time to observe. Night Sorrow did not use any of his ultimate techniques. He only defended and let the spiritual body attack. Then, he would learn. After watching for a while, Night Sorrow understood some things. This spiritual body's palm technique was mainly of the time attribute. The earth, water, wind, and fire attributes were supplementary. The earth attribute formed the earth attribute space. The water, wind, and fire attributes strengthened and stabilized the space. The time attribute slowed down the flow of time, achieving the effect of control and confinement. Night Sorrow's main body started to ponder. He did not have the earth, wind, water, or fire attributes. However, the significance of these four basic attributes in this ultimate technique was to form and stabilize space to support the later attacks. Since he had the spatial attribute, it was sufficient for him to use the space attribute as a supplement. After that, he could use the time attribute to control, confine, and speed acceleration and deceleration. After confirming it again and memorizing the entire process of this spiritual body's attack, Night Sorrow made a move to scatter this spiritual body. Then, his main body entered the clear sky pagoda and started to study. Night Sorrow had the void heaven covering hand. His attack power was decent. However, if he wanted to hit the target had to receive the attack or use spatial cracks and soul attacks to affect the target. If he used this spiritual body's ultimate technique as a reference, he would be able to attack directly in the future without any drawbacks. After studying for a while, Night Sorrow discovered that this ultimate technique was different from the ones he had mastered before. The lower attribute came first, forming the control attribute. Then, the time attribute was added to form the ultimate move. In the past, Night Sorrow's ultimate techniques had the highest attribute first, followed by the support attribute. There was no need to copy all of them. Night Sorrow started to cultivate his own palm technique. Night Sorrow's path of cultivation was to fuse the attributes. First, he would activate the space attribute to envelop the opponent. Then, he would use the time attribute to slow down the opponent's speed and achieve control. Then, he would use the void heaven covering hand to attack. After cultivating in the clear sky pagoda for a month, Night Sorrow's new ultimate technique was thoroughly integrated. It was the void energy that controlled the space attribute. The space attribute came first, disrupting the laws of heaven and earth, the will, and the momentum of heaven and earth. Then, it would be the attack, using the void attribute to complete the ultimate move. After cultivating the new ultimate technique, Night Sorrow changed his way of thinking. He added the void attribute to the space attribute, strengthening the envelopment and control. The ultimate move's attribute was the destruction attribute. With the support of the void attribute, Night Sorrow's new ultimate technique's control was even stronger. Night Sorrow even felt that time had stopped. Everything had stopped, and even time had stopped flowing. However, it was only for a moment. His realm was not enough, and his strength was not enough. Night Sorrow understood that his strength was not enough. If his mastery of the attributes was deep enough, then he would be able to stop time, and then proceed to kill. Of course, that was under the premise that the opponent could not affect or block his ultimate move. If the opponent's domain was strong enough, then this time deceleration would be extremely slow, and the power of the ultimate technique would be weakened. Very good. After cultivating this ultimate technique, this trip to the heaven wasteland space was not in vain. Night Sorrow muttered in a low voice. He exited the clear sky pagoda and continued forward. On the way, Night Sorrow practiced his new ultimate technique while understanding the situation of the soul body using the ultimate technique. Night Sorrow was very gratified. He recalled King Yawu's words. All the ultimate techniques were created, and they were most suitable for the creator. When the later generations practiced them, they would definitely not have the power of the creator. Currently, this ultimate technique that he had named the Desolate Nirvana Palm belonged to him. Chapter 1855. Look at, on D, edition chapter IE section hashtag, Desolation's hand was one of Night Sorrow's ultimate skills that he relied on to survive. He had a deep attachment to it. Later on, as his cultivation and realm increased, he had other options. Night Sorrow did not use Desolation's hand much. Now, Desolation Nirvana Palm was based on the power of time. The only difference was that it was different from Desolation's hand in terms of power and effect. In the past, Desolation's hand only had the ability to accelerate time. Desolation Nirvana Palm was different. Its ability was very comprehensive. It could accelerate and decelerate time. Whether it was acceleration or deceleration, it was not as powerful as time stop. In the moment of time stop, the enemy would not be able to resist. However, because his cultivation was not high enough and his realm was low, Night Sorrow's Desolation Nirvana Palm could only produce time stop for a moment if the opponent could not withstand it. If the opponent's domain was strong, the effect might not be obvious. As he continued to cultivate and improve, Night Sorrow would study new ultimate skills. If it was not new, Night Sorrow would use it to hone his Desolation Nirvana Palm. In the previous process, Knight Sorrow had seen an ultimate skill that was more suitable for him. It was a space-time defensive ultimate skill. When the opponent was defending, their body would be in another space. Knight Sorrow's attack energy would mostly miss. A part of it would be blocked and melted by the space barrier. When faced with such a situation, Knight Sorrow would send out a clone to fight. His main body would study and analyze. This space-overlapping defensive ultimate skill was indeed powerful. After studying for half a day, Knight Sorrow finally understood this space-time ultimate skill. This ultimate skill could enter a different space when in danger or when one did not want to face it head-on. It would greatly weaken the opponent's power. Knight Sorrow named this move Space-Time Realm. The sudden appearance of a different space was created by him using Space-Time Dao. After killing his opponent and arriving at a mountain peak, Knight Sorrow stopped moving forward and began to cultivate Space-Time Realm and Desolation Nirvana Palm. Desolation Nirvana Palm. Knight Sorrow did not only use it for attacks with his left hand. The spear art with his right hand also had the essence of this spear art. As for the defensive ultimate skill, Space-Time Realm, he was getting more and more proficient. Knight Sorrow's body was sometimes clear and sometimes blurry. Knight Sorrow's body was switching between the real world and the space-time realm. Feeling that he was almost done cultivating the ultimate skills, Knight Sorrow continued moving forward. After more than a month of training, his realm and cultivation did not increase his combat strength. In Nine's world, Knight Sorrow's 9-domain world, 9 Nirvana Palm was cultivating and researching new ultimate skills. A month and a half later, Knight Sorrow discovered a spiritual body that controlled a supreme soul technique. There was a rhythmic halo around its head that constantly pulsed, annihilating any attacks that came at the deity sea. The mode of this soul defense ultimate skill was relatively simple. There was no worldly influence involved. Knight Sorrow learned it easily. Knight Sorrow was not worried about his own soul defense. He had the 9 region origin beads and the green lotus jade bracelet to protect his soul. They were both heavenly Tao artifacts. If the opponent's cultivation was not much higher than his, even if they had soul attack ultimate skills, they would not be able to break through his defense. However, this soul defense ultimate skill was very strong. Knight Sorrow's soul extinguishing slash could not break through the halo's defense. It could also isolate some of the effects of ultimate skills on the soul. Knight Sorrow naturally would not give up on such an ultimate skill. Even if he did not need it, he could pass it on to his wife and children. As he moved forward, the battles continued. However, Knight Sorrow did not cultivate the ultimate skills that the soul's soul used. Not cultivating them did not mean that they were not helpful to Knight Sorrow. He used the advantages and disadvantages of these ultimate skills to strengthen his own. There were almost no supreme attribute souls here. There were no supreme attribute ultimate skills. What he needed to do was to draw inferences and strengthen his own ultimate skills. Of course, this required comprehension. With countless ultimate skills evolving before his eyes, Knight Sorrow's own ultimate skills were becoming more and more perfect. 3 months later, Knight Sorrow had traversed the entire space. It wasn't that he hadn't encountered any danger. Once, he had been surrounded by dozens of souls. Because of his strong combat ability and the Empty Realm's defenses, he had the true Dragon of Destruction mantra, the Desolation of Time Palm, and the Great Emperor's Reincarnation slash. After 3 months, Knight Sorrow had traveled through most of Desolation space. He decided to stabilize and improve his realm. He had already chosen the location. It was the place where he had encountered danger. There had once been many soul bodies gathered there because the energy impact there was intense. Moreover, there was a rich power of virtue erupting there. Just like at the Yawa Mountain, Knight Sorrow sat down cross-legged and used his own time acceleration. He began to absorb energy and power of virtue to cultivate and improve his realm at the same time. After the 100 Races Alliance conference in Desolation City, many elites did not leave. They all signed up to join the Heaven Wasteland Army, mainly from the First Army. Tiger Cold and Flower Without Words came to see Night Sorrow, as well as other Imperial Emperor elites. Without Night Sorrow, they could not do anything. The Grand Elder also announced that the First Army of Heaven Wasteland Army would recruit members in a year. Lin Piaomiao became a candidate for the Disciplinary Law Enforcement Elder and had more things to do. She returned to the Nine Domains world and met Night Sorrow's Nine Domains doppelganger twice. She asked about Night Sorrow's situation. She only felt relieved after knowing that Night Sorrow was very stable. There were also many people who wanted to join the Humanitarian League, but they were all rejected. The Humanitarian League did not accept just anyone. The Humanitarian League needed Night Sorrow's approval and Night Sorrow did not dislike them. This was the consensus of the Humanitarian League except for Night Sorrow. First of all, Night Sorrow was the League leader and Night Sorrow was the virtuous emperor. They could distinguish a person's moral integrity. The Humanitarian League did not care about the fact that they would not be able to grow if they did not recruit members. In terms of strength, the Humanitarian League was definitely strong. Under the Humanitarian League, there were forces under the Devil Realm's Great Demon King, Misty Dynasty, Puluo Island, Rain Bamboo Mountain, and Ruisi Country. Fen Tian also had his own guards. These forces were all led by the Humanitarian League. If any force competed with the Humanitarian League in terms of strength, they would be badly battered. The Humanitarian League controlled some of the atmosphere in the celestial realm. The spies under the forces were operating. If they found people with bad morals, they would deal with them. If the forces under them were not strong enough, the Humanitarian League's elders would take action. When Puluo, Lin Piaomiao, and the others took action, even the elders of the 100 Races Alliance could not withstand it. The days of cultivation were day and night. Night Sorrow was used to such days. He knew that the stronger one was, the higher the chances of survival. Entering the reincarnation battlefield was a life and death battle. The 100 Races Alliance, the Devil-Winged Clan, the Black Dragons, and the Flying Serpents would also enter. These forces were like fire and water, so a life and death battle was inevitable. Chapter 1856. This tyrannical power was different from the tyrannical power of the energy attribute. The tyrannical power of the energy attribute had many sides. It could have negative elements such as killing, oppression, and so on. The tyrannical power of virtue was a kind of might and pressure, an upright and vast impact. Night Sorrow knew that this was the result of absorbing the Fate Dragon Slaughtering Claw's power of virtue. As the name implied, the Fate Dragon Slaughtering Claw focused on battle. Hence, it was different from Dragon Head Yawa Mountains. Dragon Head Yawa Mountain Slaughtering Claw. Night Sorrow's cultivation had risen to intermediate Sovereign Emperor, and the time energy around him had increased. It was now more than 5 times, less than 6 times. Time slipped away as Night Sorrow cultivated. During closed-door cultivation, Night Sorrow's mind became one, and he forgot about everything. His cultivation and realm rapidly rose. After changing the environment and sensing the different power of heaven and earth, Night Sorrow entered a state of selflessness. As for danger, Night Sorrow did not worry. As long as danger descended, he would wake up. In the blink of an eye, 8 months passed. Night Sorrow had been in the heavenly desolate space for nearly 11 months. Night Sorrow woke up from his meditation because the energy aura in the heavenly desolate space had become berserk. After waking up from his meditation, Night Sorrow first checked his body. After checking, Night Sorrow smiled. During this closed-door cultivation, his spacetime attribute had increased by 2 points. His comprehension of the power of heaven and earth had reached 57%. His comprehension of the void attribute had also increased by 2 points. However, these 2 points were very significant. He had advanced from a 4-star emperor to a 5-star emperor. Just like the void attribute, he was an intermediate sovereign emperor. As for the destruction attribute, he comprehended it the fastest. He comprehended it by 3 points and was just 1 step away. As long as he could feel it, he would become a 5-star emperor. The reason why Knight Sorrow was able to comprehend the destruction attribute so quickly was because the place where he was meditating was where the slaughter claw of the fate dragon was located. It focused on slaughter and destruction, so Knight Sorrow was able to comprehend more of the destruction attribute's grand momentum of heaven and earth. Knight Sorrow did not know how long he had been in the heaven wasteland space after communicating with the 9 domain doppelgangers. 11 months had passed, and Knight Sorrow had to head out. There was still 1 month left, and he had to leave. The Grand Elder had said that in the infinite wasteland space, only this 1 year was stable. After that, it would become violent, forming a space that was not suitable for living. Knight Sorrow was very satisfied with what he had gained in the past 11 months. His cultivation base and cultivation base had increased. He had researched 3 types of lost techniques. Additionally, his power of virtue had increased. Knight Sorrow could feel that his power of virtue was no longer the same as when he had first become a merit emperor. The power of virtue contained within his body had become much thicker. Feeling very excited, Knight Sorrow's body trembled. The energy in his body surged, and golden light shone brightly. Then, he let out a long roar. He wanted to vent. Opening his arms and roaring into the sky, Knight Sorrow felt very comfortable. After Knight Sorrow finished roaring and was about to leave, the mountain he was cultivating on shone with golden light. Then, a golden light shot into the sky. After the golden light stabilized in the air, it began to flow. It was the flow of words. He recognized them. Knight Sorrow recognized those words. It was the Tao Te Ching. The golden light shone in the air. The flowing words were the words recorded in the Tao Te Ching during the human Tao ceremony. Knight Sorrow soared into the air and approached the golden light. He saw the core of the golden light. It was a golden book, and the words were flowing out from the book. After taking a few steps in the air, Knight Sorrow reached out to grab the golden book. As Knight Sorrow reached out, the golden book retreated, not giving Knight Sorrow a chance to grab it. Light of virtue, power of virtue. Knight Sorrow looked at the golden book and understood. The golden book was filled with the power of virtue. If he used the power of virtue, he might be able to get close to it. As soon as he thought of this, Knight Sorrow wrapped his left hand in the power of virtue and reached out to grab the golden book. This time, the golden book didn't resist and was grabbed by Knight Sorrow. After taking a look, Knight Sorrow realized that he didn't see wrongly. It was the Tao Te Ching. Knight Sorrow didn't understand why the Tao Te Ching would appear here. Could it have appeared in the previous reincarnation? While Knight Sorrow was thinking, the Tao Te Ching directly turned into energy and entered Knight Sorrow's body. When it reached Knight Sorrow's dantian, the golden words flowed in Knight Sorrow's dantian. Knight Sorrow was stunned. Could it be that the Tao Te Ching had become a spirit under the nourishment of the Dragon of Fate? Knight Sorrow tried to mobilize it, but the Tao Te Ching didn't move. It's not moving. Knight Sorrow took out the human emperor's seal and activated it with the power of virtue. At this moment, the Tao Te Ching in his dantian moved and the golden words flowed to the human emperor's seal. The words at the bottom of the human emperor's seal shone brightly and received a strong blessing. At this moment, Knight Sorrow understood that this book had become a supreme treasure under the nourishment of the human race's Dragon of Fate. Knight Sorrow withdrew the power of virtue. He originally thought that the golden words of the Tao Te Ching would remain in the human emperor's seal, but in fact, the golden words retracted into his dantian along with the power of virtue. Not using the human emperor's seal to strengthen his body. Knight Sorrow didn't expect this situation. However, this wasn't important. The golden words, the Tao Te Ching, already belonged to him. Without any delay, Knight Sorrow rushed to the exit of Tianhuang space. He had gone very deep this time, so he couldn't stop when he rushed back. He had to hurry. There were still battles on the way back, so there was no need to hold back. Knight Sorrow used his various ultimate skills without restraint. When the power of virtue strengthened the domain, Knight Sorrow realized that the power of the domain increased again. The soul of a 4-star monarch, which was an early-stage imperial emperor, was directly crushed. This was because there were golden words flowing in his domain. With the support of the golden words, the power of Knight Sorrow's domain increased by 30%. Knight Sorrow was so excited that he couldn't control himself. His domain was too powerful now. Knight Sorrow took out a jar of wine and drank a few mouthfuls. He suppressed the joy in his heart and continued to fly toward the exit of Tianhuang space. At this moment, at the exit of Tianhuang space, the Great Demon King was anxiously pacing back and forth. He had been out for a few days and accompanied the Grand Elder to wait for Knight Sorrow, but there was no news of Knight Sorrow. Don't be impatient. Don't be anxious. There's still time. There's great danger in Tianhuang space, but can it be greater than the 5 imperial emperors of the Demon Wing clan working together to kill it? The Grand Elder glanced at the Great Demon King and said. The Great Demon King didn't say anything, but he was still worried. There wasn't much time left, so Knight Sorrow started to rush back at full speed. If there were soul bodies blocking his way, Knight Sorrow wouldn't care. His new ultimate skill, Space-Time Realm, wasn't just for defense. It could also increase his speed. Knight Sorrow was like a stream of light, constantly flying in the blossoming space. Chapter 1857. The Great Elder and the Great Demon King's eyes were filled with astonishment because Yishan's body carried a pressure that they had to face head-on. It could even be said that they couldn't even think of resisting. Knight Sorrow greets the Grand Elder. Great Demon King, why are you looking at me like I'm a ghost? Knight Sorrow asked the Grand Elder. Nothing. Seems like you've gained a lot this year. The Great Demon King didn't say why. He knew that even Knight Sorrow didn't realize it. Yes, it's great. How are you doing? Knight Sorrow asked. Absolute Arts. I learned 2 sets of Absolute Arts. As for the Fate Energy, it's not something I can touch or see, the Great Demon King said. The Grand Elder didn't leave. He let Knight Sorrow and the Great Demon King return first. After the Great Demon King and Knight Sorrow left, the Tran Hung appeared. He waved his hand and formed a few seals to seal the bronze door. After sealing the bronze door, the Tran Hung turned around and looked at the Grand Elder. Are you surprised? Actually, it's nothing. He used to be the Emperor of Merit, but he was only exposed to the peaceful side of the power of merit. Cultivating in Yawa Mountain strengthened this point. After entering the infinite wasteland space, he came into contact with the claw of slaughter of the Dragon of Destiny and absorbed the righteous and domineering side of the power of merit, so he naturally carries the aura of a superior, but it is also very difficult to understand why it is so strong. It's strange that the Emperor can give me pressure. The other feeling is hard to describe. The pressure doesn't just come from the power of merit. The Grand Elder nodded. The Tran Hung didn't say anything. After thinking for a while, he clasped his hands together and formed a seal. Then, a special aura appeared on his body. It was mysterious and unfathomable. After a while, it dissipated. City Lord, what did you discover? The Grand Elder asked. The Human Tao Ceremony and the Book of Tao. After the last reincarnation war, he obtained the Human Tao Ceremony that was lost along with the Emperor Brush. It seems like the human race is really going to rise. Tran Hung was elated. Human Tao Ceremony. The Merit Emperor, the Human Emperor Seal, and the Human Emperor Ceremony. When he reaches the Emperor realm, he will be the human emperor of the human race. The Grand Elder's face was filled with shock. It doesn't matter whether he is an emperor or not. In the future, we should respect his opinion. He is about to become the virtuous sovereign. His words and actions are in accordance with the principles of the heavenly Tao. He is also recognized by the human Tao ceremony. He will only bring prosperity to the human race, Emperor Qin said. The Grand Elder nodded. He knew that there was some news that hadn't been made public. Once it was made known that Knight Sorrow had the human emperor's seal and the human emperor's ceremony, he would dominate the human race. Some things are enough for us to know. Keeping a secret is also to protect him. He has great potential, so we have to give him time. Tran Hung left these words and disappeared into the entrance of the Heaven Wasteland space. Knight Sorrow and the Great Demon King came out of the Heaven Wasteland pagoda and started chatting. When he learned that Knight Sorrow had cultivated 3 absolute arts, the Great Demon King's eyes were filled with disdain. He felt that it was already very impressive that he had cultivated 2 absolute arts in a year. However, Knight Sorrow had one more than him. When they arrived at the new mansion, Knight Sorrow saw the other members of the Humanitarian League. "You're back. You're finally back. I was bored to death when you weren't around." Pu Luo slammed the table and said when he saw Knight Sorrow and the Great Demon King enter the mansion. Lin Piaomiao asked about Knight Sorrow's situation. She was very happy to know that everything was going well. Knight Sorrow told the others that he would be away for a while. He planned to cultivate the death attribute so that his domain would have room for further development. "Leader, if you want to cultivate, it's enough for your original body to go. Leave your doppelganger behind. We can't be careless about the matter of the Heaven Wasteland Army. The elites of the 100 Races Alliance are all waiting to join. If you don't appear, how can they play?" Pu Luo looked at Knight Sorrow and said. "Alright, then I'll go cultivate and leave my doppelganger to handle these trivial matters." Knight Sorrow nodded. After drinking tea and chatting for a while, Knight Sorrow and Lin Piaomiao left the Heaven Wasteland City. They went to the Divine Capital City for a while before returning to the Mishti Dynasty. Knight Sorrow told Datura about his plans. Datura expressed that she wanted to go too. She was born beside the Yellow Spring River, so it was best for her to cultivate there. Knight Sorrow looked at Lin Piaomiao and asked for her opinion. Lin Piaomiao herself hoped to help Knight Sorrow's other wives, so she naturally agreed. The 3 of them arrived at the Evil Punisher land, opened the seal, and entered. There were only a few evil spirits in the Evil Punisher land. Knight Sorrow and the other 2 didn't kill them, because these few evil spirits could still provide some fire of life for their descendants after they evolved. The 3 of them went directly to the Yellow Spring River and set up a big tent. "From now on, everyone will cultivate individually," Knight Sorrow said. Lin Piaomiao and Datura nodded. Datura, needless to say, she had a lot of room for improvement. Lin Piaomiao was the same. She had just passed the 6 tribulations of the heavenly Tao, so her cultivation had a lot of room for improvement. When her cultivation stagnated again, she could go for the 7 tribulations of the heavenly Tao, or even the 8 or 9 tribulations of the heavenly Tao. After checking the underworld stone in his storage ring, Knight Sorrow flew above the underworld river. He planned to go all out and enter the underworld river to cultivate. He had the Merit's immortal body and the leakless true body, so he could protect himself in the underworld river. With this thought in mind, Knight Sorrow descended into the Yellow Springs River after using his energy to protect his body. As Knight Sorrow waved his sleeves, the floating skeletons were swept away. Knight Sorrow's body sank into the river. See Chapter 5 of the #PositiveX% edition. As soon as Knight Sorrow fell into the Yellow Springs River, he sensed countless pure death energies attacking his protective shield. As his body descended, Knight Sorrow discovered a large protruding rock in the Yellow Springs River. He landed on the rock and sat down, feeling the impact of the death energy. Lin Piaomiao and Datura watched from the side of the yellow springs. "This guy is really daring," Lin Piaomiao muttered. "I plan to give it a try too," Datura said. "Ah Luo, don't be rash. Knight Sorrow has the merit's immortal body and he has cultivated his body. He might be able to withstand it. If you go in, you will be in danger. The energy in the Yellow Springs River is domineering. Once it attacks your soul and your Dao heart is lost, you will really fall into the cycle of reincarnation." After hearing Datura's words, Lin Piaomiao quickly stopped him. "Piaomiao, if others did this, they would be rash. But I'm not. I'm Datura. I cultivated using the flower. When I grew up, I absorbed the energy of the Yellow Springs River. The Yellow Springs River in the world of reincarnation is not as vast as the one here. It's not as violent. But my cultivation is different from before. I'm already at the Emperor realm." Datura looked at Lin Piaomiao and said, "What you said makes sense. But I'm still a little scared." Lin Piaomiao's eyes were filled with worry. "I'll have a plan. If it doesn't work, I'll come out." Datura had already made up his mind. His body flashed and he flew towards the Yellow Springs River. Chapter 1858. Knight Sorrow's plan this time was to cultivate the death energy into his own body and not rely on the Underworld Stone in the future. The Underworld Stone was an external object after all. Using external objects to exert strength would never be as solid as using one's own strength. After feeling the impact of the death energy in the Underworld River on his body for a while, Knight Sorrow put some of the death energy into his energy shield and tried to refine and absorb it. After refining for 2 hours, Knight Sorrow found that it was not working. After refining the death energy, its attribute was dissolved. Like a rootless duckweed, the death energy could not take root in his body. Under such circumstances, Knight Sorrow could only carry out his earliest plan, which was to put the Underworld Stone into his dantian one by one and refine them first. After refining, he would shatter them and leave the death energy seed in his body. Then he could slowly develop it. In order to save time, Knight Sorrow added time energy into his energy shield and started to accelerate time. Then he refined the Underworld Stone. Beside the Underworld River, seeing that Knight Sorrow and Datura were not in danger, Lin Piaomiao nodded in relief. She felt that everything was so incredible. In the past, humans and practitioners of other races did not dare to go near the Underworld River for fear of being hurt by the energy of the Underworld River. But now, Knight Sorrow and Datura both directly went into the Underworld River to cultivate. This was absolutely unprecedented. At this time, Datura was like a fish in water. Although there was a little pressure, the general trend of the world regarding the death attribute was so clear. She calmed down and started to cultivate. In the past, Datura was one of the few people who stood at the top in the world of samsara. When everything in the celestial realm appeared in front of her, she felt the pressure. Knight Sorrow rose quickly and the gap between the two was getting bigger and bigger. She, who had the heart of an expert, could not accept it. Now that there was a chance, she naturally rose up. Lin Piaomiao took out the octagonal exquisite pagoda and went in to cultivate. Other than the addition of a tent and a pagoda by the Yellow Spring River, everything else was the same as before. No one knew about the changes in the two people in the river and the misty forest in the exquisite pagoda. Knight Sorrow used 10 days in the real world and nearly 2 months in a time acceleration to refine 3 underworld stones. In addition to the original one, he now had 4. At this time, his dantian could no longer hold any more. Feeling that it was about time, the void energy in Knight Sorrow's dantian surged, shattering all 4 underworld stones. Then, he compressed the 4 balls of energy into a ball and refined it a second time. The refinement of the Yellow Spring Stone was to build a foundation. It was not like the refinement of the yellow spring stone would complete the refinement of the death energy. The two were different concepts. Night Sorrow first refined the underworld stone so that the energy within the underworld stone would be tainted with his aura, so that it would not become violent and hard to tame. After compressing the death energy within the underworld stone into a corner of his dantian, Night Sorrow began to refine and control it bit by bit. He wanted to be able to use this energy as if it was his own arm. The yellow spring river's water flowed down without stopping. Night Sorrow and Datura were rapidly improving in the river. Night Sorrow was improving, while Datura was evolving rapidly. It was very difficult to control a different attribute. In the blink of an eye, 5 months had passed. Night Sorrow had been cultivating in the Yellow Springs River for more than 2 years. Finally, he had absorbed the incomparably pure death energy within his dantian. Finally, there was another attribute. The foundation of the death attribute had been formed. Night Sorrow had his own death attribute. The next step was to strengthen and improve. Night Sorrow stopped the operation of the leakless real body. While comprehending the rules of the death attribute, he also improved the death energy within his dantian. In the Heavenly Emperor City, the Heaven Wasteland Army's first army had gathered. The Grand Elder, the Great Demon King, the 7 Elders, Lin Piao, and a few law enforcement elders brought the members of the 100 Races Alliance who wanted to join the first army to the Heaven Wasteland Army's martial arts field. Today was the day that Night Sorrow took over the first army of the Heaven Wasteland Army. It was also the day that the first army recruited people. The first army of the Heaven Wasteland Army had a long history and was the glory of the 100 Races Alliance. All the members were emperors. Currently, there were about 200 people. After the people had gathered, the Grand Elder announced the appointment of Night Sorrow as the captain of the first army. Night Sorrow walked to the platform in front of the martial arts field and glanced at the sergeants of the first army. The Heaven Wasteland City appointed me as the captain of the first army. I'm only halfway to this position because I can only be the captain of the first army because you're convinced and obedient, Night Sorrow said after looking at the sergeants. Very good. All the sergeants of the first army are absolutely obedient and the best sergeants. However, the new captain must also convince us. Otherwise, you can go back to where you came from. A middle-aged man with a saber on his back walked out of the first army. That should be the case. Then let's set the rules. You can choose anyone to come up to this arena. As long as you can beat me down, I'll turn around and leave. I won't touch the first army again, Night Sorrow said. Straightforward. My name is Swadong, and I'm the deputy captain of the first army. I already know that Night Sorrow has won consecutive battles in the arena. Even if you can't hold your ground in the first army, I'll still approve of you. However, please don't look at the sergeants of the first army as if they're a bunch of losers. We've been through killing and those who compete for the first army are just kids. Who wants to come up to the arena? Swadong turned around and glanced at the sergeants of the first army. Bang! The 200 sergeants of the first army all took a step forward. None of them were afraid of the battle. They all had the confidence to fight against Night Sorrow. You're the most suitable person to be the captain of the first army. However, since I'm here, I can't go back like this. Come on. Night Sorrow flashed and stood on the arena in front of the martial arts field. He stretched out his right hand and took the Blood Kylan evil spear in his hand. Genuine head hair, interesting. The Great Demon King said. Everyone knew that it was not easy for Night Sorrow to take over the first army. Otherwise, the Grand Elder, the 7 Patriarchs, and other law-enforcing elders would not have come here. You! Swadong pointed at a sergeant standing in the front. Excuse me. The sergeant pointed at by Swadong roared and leaped up. He held his saber with both hands and slashed at Yishang. His blood chi rippled in all directions. It was obvious that he was a cultivator who had been through many life and death battles. Chapter 1859. Swadong pointed at another sergeant. The sergeant cupped his fists at Night Sorrow and released his realm. Then, he brandished his saber at Night Sorrow. He was much more cautious than the first one. Realm suppression. Night Sorrow thrust his blood-Kylan evil spear at the sergeant. Wherever the spear passed, the sergeant's realm was directly torn apart. Just as their weapons were about to collide, Night Sorrow's body blurred. Then, he flashed to the side of the sergeant and hit him in the chest with his blood-Kylan evil spear. It was exactly the same. This soldier was the same as the first soldier who went up on stage. He was struck in the chest and sent flying out of the arena. What's going on? This guy is much stronger than he was a year ago. Looking at Night Sorrow, Yuzhu was surprised. A year ago, Night Sorrow had been very strong, but he hadn't been able to defeat his opponents so easily like now. Anyone else? Night Sorrow looked at the sergeants of the First Army of the Heaven Wasteland Army and asked. Very strong. Let me have a try. Swadong did not ask other sergeants to come to the arena. He knew that it was useless for other sergeants to come to the arena. They were not at the same level as Night Sorrow. Yishan's 2 spear strikes sent 2 opponents flying. It was too casual and too easy. Good. Night Sorrow nodded. He felt that Swadong and the sergeants of the First Army were not bad. Swadong had to fight because he had to give the other sergeants an explanation. Swadong held his long sword in his right hand and went to the arena. He nodded at Night Sorrow and said, "Make your move." Night Sorrow raised his left hand and threw out a palm. A giant hand made of energy appeared and pressed towards Swadong. *7 Yong Si Jio read novels for free. It was the Desolation Palm. The giant hand made of energy stirred up the wind and clouds and the momentum of heaven and earth. Swadong found that he could not retreat. The surrounding space was confined and the flow of time had changed. He could only resist with his sword. Swadong wielded his sword with his right hand and punched with his left hand. It took him several punches and several sword strikes to break the giant hand. Seeing that Night Sorrow didn't chase after him, Swadong cupped his fists and said, "Captain, your strength is amazing. Swadong admires you." Swadong knew very well that if Night Sorrow had pursued him, he would have been defeated immediately. Night Sorrow had only used one palm to save his face. As Swadong cupped his hands and called him captain, the other sergeants also cupped their hands to Night Sorrow. "Since you've approved, then I, Night Sorrow, will say a few words and set our rules." Night Sorrow raised his right hand, and the blood-Chilan evil vanquisher spear fell into the holster on his back. "Captain, please instruct me." Swadong returned to the front of the sergeants of the First Army. "Good. I, Night Sorrow, will accept any challenge when I'm in the First Army. If I lose, I'll leave. But when I'm the captain, you have to obey my orders," Night Sorrow said. Swadong and the other sergeants cupped their hands and took the order. This was the rule in every army and corps. I've led a team in the past, and I've been through realm wars in worldlets and realm wars. What I can do is that I, Night Sorrow, will be in front of you when you fight and behind you when you retreat. As for the Brotherhood, we don't have it now. But on the battlefield, I'll abide by the Brotherhood rule and live and die with you." After Yishang said this, he looked at Tian Yu and Long Jin, because they were his brothers who had walked over with him. Swadong and the other sergeants were silent for a while. Then they took out their weapons and patted their chests. "Long Jin, Tian Yu, I'm glad that you two have been with me all this time. Today, we'll start a new journey. In order to keep up with the pace of the team, you two will be responsible for training. If you can't achieve the tacit understanding of the God-slaying squad, you'll have to leave," Night Sorrow said, looking at Long Jin and Tianyu. Tianyu and Long Jin cupped their hands at Night Sorrow. They had already made arrangements. After Night Sorrow became the captain of the First Army, they would be in charge of training. Do you feel uncomfortable being trained by two newcomers? Do you think they're not qualified? Then I'll tell you now. They've been in countless battles with my team, and they've never left any of their brothers behind. They've been seriously injured in battles, but they've never been killed. As the captain, my first priority is to ensure that you don't lose your lives, Yi Shan shouted again. Zhuo Dong and the other sergeants didn't say anything, because Night Sorrow's words were the rule and the order. Night Sorrow, you'll have to deal with the recruitment and personnel arrangement. The Grand Elder was very satisfied with today's result. The sergeants of the First Army were unruly, but they couldn't mess with Night Sorrow. Okay, Zhuo Dong, take the sergeants of the First Army and walk in front of me in order, Night Sorrow said. Zhuo Dong didn't understand, but he had to obey the order. He took the sergeants of the First Army and walked in front of Night Sorrow in order. When they reached the 30th person, Night Sorrow stretched out his right hand and said, "You, get out." The man pointed at by Night Sorrow was stunned and looked at Night Sorrow. "You're not suitable to be in my team." Yi Shan threw out a few words. "Why can't I be in the First Army?" The man asked. "A sergeant should have an indomitable spirit and momentum. Some of the dozens of people who walked past me just now stared at me, and some curled their lips, but their spirit was stable and their eyes were firm. What about you? You're evasive and cowardly, so I've decided to remove you." Night Sorrow stated the reason why he didn't want this person. "Get out of here." Suddenly, a dozen sergeants shouted at the man. "Zhuo Dong, what's the matter?" The Grand Elder took a few steps forward. His name is Ma Lei, and he was arranged to be in the First Army by a sect elder. But he's not suitable to be in the First Army. I'm going to report this matter to the new captain after he takes office. Zhuo Dong bowed to the Grand Elder and then cupped his hands to Night Sorrow. The Grand Elder didn't say anything, but his face darkened. It was shameful for Ma Lei to be in the First Army because of his connections. Ma Lei, right? I don't care about your past misdeeds. I'm the captain of the First Army, and I call the shots here. Go back to where you came from. Night Sorrow looked at Ma Lei and said. He didn't need to know the details. Ma Lei didn't have the spirit of the other sergeants in the First Army, so he didn't want him. Ma Lei's face darkened, and he stepped back. He didn't dare to challenge Night Sorrow. Seriously? Pu Luo rubbed his chin. Next, the soldiers of the First Army continued to walk in front of Yi Shan. At this time, everyone held their heads high. They were worried that if their auras were not strong enough, they would be chased away by Yi Shan. That would be embarrassing. The sergeants of the First Army went back to their original positions. Everything was peaceful, and Night Sorrow didn't kick them out. When they reached the last one, Night Sorrow said again, "You're not suitable either. Go back to where you came from." Chapter 1860. Night Sorrow was silent. He found that the First Army had done a lot of things, including embezzlement. Night Sorrow, these troubles should have been solved before you came, but it's not too late to solve them now. We've verified that the quartermaster embezzled, Lu Qi said. What happened? How do you plan to deal with it? Night Sorrow looked at Lu Qi. He embezzled the resources of the First Army and sent them to his family. Do you have any opinion on how to deal with it? Lu Qi looked at Night Sorrow. The Heaven Wasteland Sergeants exist to protect the stability of the 100 tribes in the Celestial Realm. He embezzled the military supplies and is a burden. He and his family deserve to die, Night Sorrow said. What he did has nothing to do with his family, right? We shouldn't implicate the innocent, Bai Zetian of the Nine-Tailed Fox clan said. Innocent? He sent the resources back to his family. didn't his family know that the resources were embezzled? He embezzled the resources of the sergeants. Doesn't he deserve to die? Night Sorrow looked at Baizhijan. Baizhijan looked at Night Sorrow and didn't say anything. She knew that Night Sorrow's words made sense. Lu Qi looked at Night Sorrow and didn't say anything. He wanted to know what Night Sorrow would say. Grand Elder, Lu Qi, are you waiting for me to deal with it? Night Sorrow looked at the Grand Elder and Lu Qi and asked. You're the one who found it. Why are you troubling others instead of dealing with it? Lu Qi said. Night Sorrow looked at Lu Qi. He knew that Lu Qi was throwing the blame to others. After thinking for a while, Night Sorrow looked at Zhuodong and asked, Zhuodong, how much did he embezzle? Do you have a figure? I can't tell you the exact number. When he was filling our spirit gathering array with Saint Spirit stones, he did some dirty work and cut corners. In total, there are about 1.5 million Saint Spirit stones missing, Zhuodong said. 1.5 million. That's too uncertain. 3 million. I don't care which family you're from, but you have to deliver 3 million Saint Spirit stones to the First Territory's encampment within 7 days. If you don't, I'll wipe out your family. As for the punishment, it's not up to me. Since you're no longer a sergeant of the First Army, the Commandment Elder might spare you. After hearing Zhuodong's words, Night Sorrow pointed at the quartermaster and made his decision. Leader, if he doesn't spit it out, our Humanitarian League has nothing to do recently. We'll take care of it, Reese shouted. 7 Latest Unspecified Currency * Chapter. Supra, Kaof. What do you mean by being lenient? Return the 3 million, and then go to the discipline hall to receive your punishment. If you don't go, when I catch you, it won't be a punishment. After hearing Night Sorrow's words, Lu Qi coughed. Night Sorrow had also thrown him a problem, so he had to deal with it. Then it's settled. Also, those who want to join the First Territory should line up in front of me. If you feel that you're lacking in humanity and confidence, don't come up. It's too embarrassing if you can't pass, Night Sorrow said to the group of imperial emperors behind the Patriarch of the 100 Tribes. It is indeed very frightening, but I haven't done anything shameful. I'll just go. Hu Han stepped forward and walked past Yishang. Does the First Territory selection depend on fate? It's child's play. Yu Kun snorted. What the hell are you talking about? Does our leader need you to judge him? Great Demon King was unhappy when he heard Yu Kun belittling Night Sorrow. He had been dissatisfied with Yu Kun for a long time. Grand Elder, I'm the leader of the First Territory. I can make the decision, right? Night Sorrow looked at the Grand Elder. The Grand Elder glanced at Yu Kun and nodded at Night Sorrow. He was a little dissatisfied. It was too late to establish Night Sorrow's prestige. Yu Kun shouldn't be a hindrance. Even if there was something wrong, it should be communicated after the event. Then, Night Sorrow continued to select people. Fortunately, the Imperial Emperors who joined the First Territory were confident in themselves and weren't eliminated. The number of soldiers in the First Territory increased to 260 people. Looking at the 260 people, Night Sorrow nodded and announced the rules. After 3 months, some people would be eliminated. Those who weren't suitable would be sent back to wherever they came from. The Grand Elder and the others also left because Night Sorrow handled the matters of the First Territory very well. No, Lu Qi didn't leave. He wanted to observe for a while. The shopkeeper's discipline was to control the situation and see if there were any troublemakers. The few people from the Humanitarian League didn't leave either. They were more interested in Night Sorrow's management of the First Territory. Night Sorrow looked at the soldiers of the First Territory and told Long Jin and Tianyu that the first thing to do was to strengthen the battle formation training. They had to completely master the joint attack formation. Captain, if I may offend you by asking, Aren't joint attack formations all mediocre cultivators who cultivate in order to defeat the strong as the weak? Hu Han opened his mouth and said, "If you have an idea, just say it. There's no need to offend. Why do all the forces have to form an army? Why don't they just gather cultivators before the battle? There's a fundamental difference between the two. The advantage of a soldier is cooperation. It seems that none of you understand this. Let's demonstrate it first. Long Jin, Tianyu, and I will fight twice as many opponents as us." "You can see the effect," Night Sorrow said. At this time, White Meng Meng of the Nine-Tailed Fox clan raised her hand. She meant that Night Sorrow was strong and he could fight several opponents alone. Night Sorrow shook his head helplessly. "We're here to prove the power of the battle formation, not to win. Don't use your doppelgangers or fighting skills. Just fight with ordinary attacks." "Okay. If we lose, we won't be bullied." Dong nodded. "Vice Captain, if you want to bully someone, you have to be able to bully them first." Long Jin stepped onto the stage as soon as he finished speaking. Yi Shang and Tianyu followed suit. As soon as Night Sorrow and the other two went up, Dong rushed to the arena with 5 sergeants of the 1st Territory of the Heaven Wasteland Army. One of them was the sergeant who had been beaten down by Night Sorrow. Although Dong had not fought with Long Jin and Tianyu recently, the battle formation was created by Night Sorrow, so it was not a problem for the 3 of them to perform the 3 talents formation together. While Long Jin was blocking, Night Sorrow and Tianyu attacked. The sergeants of the 1st Territory were hit by Night Sorrow's Blood Kylan Evil Slaying Spear and were sent flying. After Night Sorrow attacked, he turned to defense. Long Jin began to stab fiercely with his wave saber. As long as he did not stab the vital parts of the opponent's dantian, he would not be killed. Tianyu, who had transformed into a human form, used his long sword to hit people's faces. Night Sorrow and the other two changed their attack and defense very quickly. Dong and the other 2 sergeants could fight one-on-one, but they could not break the defense of Night Sorrow and the other two's joint attack formation. "Brothers, let's go!" Dong shouted. His 5 sergeants had all been beaten. If he did not shout, the battle would be over. Hearing Dong shout, a group of sergeants rushed to the arena. However, no one broke the rules and no one used doppelgangers. They all held their sabers in reverse and waved at Night Sorrow and the other 2 with the backs of their sabers. "Brother Shirsan, we can't do this. They are a group of animals." Tianyu shouted. There were no rookies in the 1st Territory. Night Sorrow and the other 2 could not withstand the attacks of so many sergeants. Tianyu was almost crippled. Chapter 1861. Let's rush out. I'll be the main attacker. You guys defend and bring up the rear. Yi Shang was also helpless. The sergeants of the 1st Army were determined to defeat the 3 of them. There were too many people involved, 3 layers inside and 3 layers outside. Night Sorrow brandished his Blood Kylan Evil Slaying Spear and smashed the sergeants of the 1st Army who were in his way. Some of the sergeants of the 1st Army were sent flying, while others were sent flying. The arena was full of people who were sent flying. Night Sorrow and the other 2 were also hit. Even a tiger could not resist a pack of wolves. Fortunately, Night Sorrow and the other 2 were able to defend themselves. Night Sorrow's body was at the level of an imperial emperor, while Long Jin and Tianyu were divine beasts. Therefore, it was not a problem for them to be hit several times. After a while, Night Sorrow and the other 2 rushed out of the arena. Dong stopped the sergeants of the 1st Army who were about to chase after them. This is the real battlefield. The 3 of them have broken out of the encirclement. Few of our brothers can stand up. Bastard! Who hit my eye? Come out! Tianyu turned around and cursed. He had a black eye. No one knew who had punched him. The sergeants of the First Army did not say anything. Some of them could not help laughing. Tianyu stood there majestically, but his black eye was very funny. You don't follow the rules. How many people did you send? 60. 80. Long Jin was also dissatisfied. The goal of war is to defeat the opponent. Who cares about the number of people? Flower without words said. That's right. The goal of war is to win. It's good to win. Although the three of us are a little embarrassed, you didn't take advantage of us. In the end, we won. Knight Sorrow tidied up his robe. Assemble. Zhuodong shouted. Hearing Zhuodong shout, the sergeants, whether they were beaten or crippled, lined up neatly. You have seen the effect of the combined attack formation. It can increase the chance of survival on the battlefield. We are soldiers. Dying on the battlefield is our fate. But we are also sons and fathers. If we can live, no one is willing to fall. From today onwards, all of you will receive Long Jin and Tianyu's guidance in the cultivation of formations. If you fail or are unwilling to learn, just let me know and I will respectfully escort you out of the First Army's encampment, Knight Sorrow said. Yes. Zhuodong and the others roared. Dismissed. I have to say, you guys are really unlucky. Knight Sorrow rubbed his left shoulder. He had also been hit a few times. After that, Knight Sorrow left the martial arts practice field. After returning to the mansion, Knight Sorrow meditated and circulated his vitality. Then, he went to the hall and spoke to the people from the Humanitarian League. The first territory has been accepted. Those guys are not bad, Pu Luo said. They are really shameless. So many people are ganging up on the three of them, Yu Zhu said. It's nothing. It's true. Even I want to slap them a few times, the Great Demon King said as he tossed the gold brick in his hand. Knight Sorrow thought it was a good thing. It was also a way to communicate and lay the foundation for future cooperation. After chatting with the people from the Humanitarian League for a while, Knight Sorrow arrived at the encampment of the First Army. At the martial arts practice field, Long Jin and Tianyu were talking about the essentials of the combined attack formation. They also emphasized the concept of blocking attacks. Everyone, believe in one thing. It's not wrong to leave your back to your brothers. If you want to block attacks for others, so will others. Taking the initiative to block attacks may result in injuries. It's much better than your brothers being killed. Exchanging injuries for the lives of your brothers, exchanging injuries for the lives of your opponents. This is cooperation in battle. Remember, living and dying together is not an empty promise. Looking at the soldiers of the First Army, Yishang opened his mouth and said a few words. Watching the sergeants of the First Army begin to practice, Knight Sorrow went to the small martial arts practice field in the corner of the encampment. He still needed to perfect the 3 new unique skills he had learned. Lu Qi left. He could see that the First Army had gained its soul. While Yishang was speaking, he was completely silent. No one dared to refute him. Regardless of their background, even if they were proud divine beasts, no one dared to disagree. This was prestige. When night fell, Long Jin and Tianyu finished teaching the combined attack formation of the First Army and announced that they were going to rest. At this time, Zhuodong and a few other people went to Knight Sorrow's side and watched Knight Sorrow practice his spear skills. What's the matter? Is there anything wrong? Knight Sorrow asked after putting away his spear. Captain, we used to have the best martial arts practice field in the First Army. But after the old captain left, the martial arts practice field was taken away by the Second Army. I fought with them twice, but I was no match for them. Since we couldn't start a war, we couldn't get it back, Zhuodong said. They took the First Army's territory. Knight Sorrow looked at Swadong in surprise. Yes, I was no match for them, but I couldn't keep looking for trouble. Otherwise, the reputation of the First Army would be tarnished, Swadong said. It's nothing. Just take it back. Brothers, you should hurry up and practice the combined attack formation. We may enter the transmigration battlefield. If you're not strong enough, I'd rather go there alone than take you with me. You'll die there, Knight Sorrow said. I understand. Brothers of the First Army are all proud. They approve of the combined attack formation, but they are too embarrassed to say it, Swadong said. Okay, I'll ask for the information of the Second Army tomorrow morning, Knight Sorrow said and left. Long Jean took out a jar of wine and threw it to Tianyu. We'll have fun tomorrow. It's fun to bully us. Can we drink? Swadong looked at Long Jean and asked. Who told us we can't drink? Did the captain say that? Long Jean looked at Swadong and asked. Then a squad leader told him that all the commanders of the Heaven Wasteland Army abstained from drinking. The captain of the First Army has the final say. He didn't say you can't drink. You can do it if you want. Do you know why we're willing to follow the captain? Because we can follow our hearts and we won't be bullied, Tianyu said. After a night's rest, Knight Sorrow arrived at the encampment of the First Army. Swadong was waiting for him in the Commander-in-Chief's office with a man. The man Swadong brought was a spy from the First Army. He was also a scout during the war. He brought the information about the Second Army. Knight Sorrow found that the captain of the Second Army was highly praised. He was invincible under the Emperor realm. Nine-headed lion. What race is that? After reading the introduction, Knight Sorrow returned the information to the scout. He has a mutated bloodline. He's really strong and arrogant, Swadong said. Let's go and make trouble. Knight Sorrow thought for a while and said. The sergeants of the First Army were very efficient. They gathered in a short while. Chapter 1862. Go now. Swadong was stunned. He had thought that Knight Sorrow would wait for a while before making this decision. We live for the sake of happiness. Don't you feel uncomfortable holding back your anger? Regardless of whether we can defeat them or not, at least we have the courage to fight, Knight Sorrow said. It was not the first time that Knight Sorrow had led an army, so he knew the importance of momentum. An army without momentum was like a sheep that could not be led. With momentum, it did not matter if the army was not strong enough. Strength could be improved, but momentum was the foundation. Go. After a while, Knight Sorrow led the sergeants of the First Army to a large martial arts practice field, or rather, to be exact, a high-end station. After the sergeants of the First Army entered, they were intercepted by another group of people. As soon as the conflict broke out, a burly man appeared. Swadong, are you still not convinced? Do you expect your new captain, who took office yesterday, to avenge you? The burly man looked at Swadong and said. This is the encampment and the martial arts practice field of the First Legion. If you want to take it, I can't protect it. Of course, I have to inform the captain. Also, let me tell you, Ju-yi, the First Legion won't let go of this territory. Even if we lose, we will take it back. Swadong said. Ha! You want to admit defeat without a fight? Your courage is commendable. The sergeants of the Second Army burst into laughter. They were not convinced by the First Army's decision. Different ranks meant different honors. Is it funny? Knight Sorrow walked out with a smile. The nine-headed lion, Ju-yi, raised his arm to stop the sergeants of the Second Army from laughing. Sergeants are more important than sergeants. You sneered at our brothers in the Heaven Wasteland Army, which makes me look down on you. Besides, it's okay if you can keep this station. If you can't, you won't be able to face others in the future. Knight Sorrow looked at the sergeants of the Second Army with a smile. Knight Sorrow was right. The sergeants of the Second Army had to look down on the sergeants of the First Army. If they could not keep this station, they would be disgraced in the future. You're the first vanguard this time. A billion years ago, I was still very weak, so I was not qualified to compete for the position of the first vanguard. This time, I can participate, but I am not willing to give up my original team. The other captains are the same, so you, as the first vanguard, have no sense of superiority in front of me and the other captains, Zhu Yi said. Very impressive. You belittled me, the number one vanguard, to be worthless with just one sentence. But it doesn't matter. I don't care about other people's opinions. As long as the sergeants of the First Army approve of me, that's enough. Also, since I'm the leader of the First Army, it's only natural for me to seek justice for the First Army. Are you going to let me have this encampment or not? Knight Sorrow looked at Zhu Yi. His words were gentle at the beginning, but when he reached the last sentence, his battle intent rippled in all directions. At this time, the Grand Elder, Emperor Tang, the Seven Patriarchs, and Qin Qinjie arrived. They were the first to know that there was a conflict here. After bowing to the Grand Elder and the others, Zhu Yi turned to Knight Sorrow and said, "This is the best encampment for the Heaven Wasteland Army. Whoever wants to stay here has to speak with strength. The bigger fist is the reason. You don't have the strength, so if we let you have it, you won't be embarrassed to stay here." Well said. You're so righteous in robbing. But you're also right. Everything depends on strength. The bigger fist is the reason. Today, I'll see if your reason is strong enough. Yi Shang walked a few steps and arrived at the training field in the middle of the encampment. You're asking our leader if his reason is strong enough. You're too funny. A leader of the Second Army said with a laugh. The other sergeants also looked at Knight Sorrow with contempt. I've said that you don't have a good attitude. Then I'll talk to you about this later. Zhu Yi, since we're talking with strength, how do you plan to fight? Knight Sorrow stared at the sergeants of the Second Army and then looked at Zhu Yi. Zhu Yi's body flashed and landed on the arena. Then he took out a spear that was as thick as an ordinary person's arm and pointed it at Knight Sorrow. You're overestimating yourself. From beginning to end, Knight Sorrow and Zhu Yi did not say anything to the Grand Elder and the others. In the army, it was a tradition to speak with strength. If you couldn't beat your opponent, you would be looked down upon. Knight Sorrow disdained to do so, and so did Zhu Yi. Pu Luo, who came with the Grand Elder and the others, was very angry at Zhu Yi's comment, because Zhu Yi's words were too arrogant. You can go down now. Zhu Yi's body rose into the air, and his arms swung the 6-foot-long spear toward Knight Sorrow. He was a 9-headed lion and was good at strength, so he planned to defeat Knight Sorrow. Knight Sorrow's back shook, and the blood-Kirin evil-slaying spear fell into his hand. Then he shook his arm and pulled it back into the air. Knight Sorrow was not afraid of anyone in a head-on fight. If Zhu Yi wanted to attack, he would naturally take it. With a loud explosion, Knight Sorrow took 2 steps back, and Zhu Yi was also sent flying back to his original position. Knight Sorrow, who had taken 2 steps back, did not give Zhu Yi a chance to attack again. He used the void step and rushed in front of Zhu Yi, thrusting out the blood-Kirin evil-slaying spear. He used the void extreme kill, but he did not directly use his lost skill. Zhu Yi was very surprised that he did not gain the upper hand in a head-on clash. The human race's body was weak, and Knight Sorrow's body was stronger than his. This was not what he expected. While he was surprised, Zhu Yi released his domain to support himself. Then, he thrusted his spear against Knight Sorrow's blood-Kirin evil-slaying spear. With the collision of energy, Zhu Yi was shaken back again. Night Sorrow's blood-cure evil-slaying spear had its own compressed domain, so Ju Yi's domain had no effect and was directly torn apart. Night Sorrow found that after Ju Yi released his domain, the spear's effect was not as good as the first spear. Therefore, he released his domain as well. Then, he stretched out his left hand and sent a desolate nirvana palm towards Ju Yi. At the same time, he used the blood-cure evil-slaying spear to cast the true dragon destruction art. Ju Yi's left hand punched out twice, scattering the energy of the desolate nirvana palm. Then, he punched to the side and released the control of the desolate nirvana palm. But at this time, Night Sorrow's true dragon destruction art arrived. At this time, Ju Yi could not use his full strength and could only block horizontally. Night Sorrow did not choose to fight Ju Yi head-on. Instead, he used the space-time realm. His body flashed and landed beside Ju Yi. The blood-cure evil-slaying spear's shaft naturally smashed into Ju Yi's chest, sending him flying and falling towards the arena. You want to talk with strength? Then I will show you my strength today. Night Sorrow used the void step again and chased after Ju Yi. You dare to come to our side? A sergeant from the Second Army drew his sword and slashed at Night Sorrow. I just said that I don't like your face. Now, I will teach you a lesson. Night Sorrow used the space-time realm and his body became blurry as he entered an independent space, dodging the sergeant's sword. Then, he appeared again and struck the sergeant's chest with his spear, smashing his chest and sending his body flying. Chapter 1863. With Night Sorrow's space-time realm, his body could switch between the real world and the independent space. This was the power of a top-level defense technique. As long as someone blocked his path to attack Ju Yi, Night Sorrow would attack with his spear and directly injure them, some in the chest, some in the face. I wanted to save your face, but since you don't want it, I won't be polite either. Night Sorrow's voice came from the tumbling shadows. The sergeants of the First Army were stunned. Night Sorrow was too powerful at this time. It was like he was fighting a group of people alone. You ganged up on our captain, go die. Long Jin and Tianyu were angry. They raised their weapons and were about to fight. However, they were stopped by Pu Luo, who shook his head. His voice sounded in their spirit sea. He promised that Night Sorrow would not be at a disadvantage and that they would not fight. If both sides started a group fight, it would not be good for the reputation and the elders would punish them. Ju Yi was furious, but Night Sorrow did not fight with him. He defended himself with the space-time realm and stabbed the blood-cure evil-slaying spear at him. He had a secret technique, but he could not use it in front of so many people. Not to mention whether he could hurt Night Sorrow, the sergeants of the Second Army would suffer first. Seeing Night Sorrow was invincible, some sergeants of the Second Army did not dare to go forward. If they went forward, they would be beaten. If Night Sorrow swung the blood-cure evil-slaying spear at their heads, it would not break their heads, but their faces would be deformed. You're not strong enough, but you're acting like you're going to bite me. Come on. Ju Yi dodged quickly, and Yi Shang was too lazy to chase after him. He directly entered the ranks of the Second Army and started fighting. Enough, Night Sorrow, stop. The Grand Elder shouted. It was meaningless to continue the fight. The momentum of the First Army had risen. If the fight continued, the confidence of the Second Army would be completely destroyed. Night Sorrow's body flickered twice, and he went out of the fight and landed on the arena. K/forever free W/ look at Xiao O's words, solving the problem is our goal. There's no point in fighting anymore, the Grand Elder said. Then I'll listen to the Grand Elder. Soldiers of the Second Army, get out of here. Sergeants of the First Army, listen up. If any sergeants of the Second Army enter this encampment, break their legs and throw them out. I will bear the consequences. Night Sorrow ordered the sergeants of the First Army. Yes. The soldiers of the First Army were now in high spirits because they had a domineering captain. Listen up. I'm not trying to make you hate me, but I'm warning you. Whoever dares to offend the First Army and despise the sergeants of the First Army will face the consequences. Zwadong, pack up and move in. Knight Sorrow glanced at the crowd outside the encampment and nodded to Zwadong. Ju-yi left with the people of the second team. The winner was the king, and the loser was the bandit. He had nothing to say since he had lost. Go buy some wine. Since it's such a good thing, let's celebrate tonight, Long Jin said to a captain named Dan Yang. How dare you drink in the encampment? Yukuin said unhappily. You can't talk to me. If you have any problems, go to our captain. Long Jin didn't even look at Yukuin because he didn't like this old guy. You can't talk to me either. I'm not the captain of the First Army because of you. Besides, we're sergeants who protect the celestial realm. What's wrong with drinking wine when we're tired from training? Contributing to the celestial realm is the right thing to do. If we delay the war, it won't be too late for the elders to punish us. Knight Sorrow looked at Yukuin and refuted him directly. He knew that Yukuin's wrong command almost caused the Devil King and Lin Piamiao's misfortune. It was Pu Luo who saved them. The great elder waved his hand and left with his men. What he needed was an army with combat power. As for character, he didn't mind. He had an army that was obedient, but what was the use of having a combat power like Mianyang? After the First Army took over the encampment, more than 260 people moved in. When they saw Knight Sorrow, they took the initiative to salute him. Knight Sorrow's strength was recognized and respected. At night, Knight Sorrow returned to his new residence. Pu Luo, the Devil King, and the others were all there. Very good, very impressive. Who can challenge you and the First Army now? Lin Piamiao said with a smile. But we've offended them. Knight Sorrow shook his head. Although he didn't want to, he had to offend them. A kind person would be bullied by others. It doesn't matter. We'll deal with whoever comes looking for trouble. Who are we afraid of? Yukuin, that old bastard, tried to show off again. The Devil King's face was full of murderous intent. Last time, he had lost a lot of his men, which was a hurdle he couldn't get over. At this time, in the new encampment of the Second Army, Commander Xiang Hua was cursing. The Second Army was his men. Xiang Hua was the commander of the Second, Third, and Fourth Army. The Second Army was defeated, which made him lose face. There were 31 armies in the Heaven Wasteland Army. Other than the First Army, the other 3 armies were unified and were under the command of one commander. Other than the First Army and the First Army, there was no ranking. When the Devil King arrived at the First Army, his men were taken over by Fan Tian. Xiang Hua was very angry, but he couldn't vent it. Some emperors didn't know about Knight Sorrow's situation, but he knew. He couldn't get back at him. After repeatedly warning Ju-yi not to provoke Knight Sorrow, Xiang Hua left. The other commanders of the Heaven Wasteland Army also sternly warned their men not to provoke Knight Sorrow and the First Army. Piao Miao, Devil King, the First Army doesn't look very strong. Why is it the First Army? Knight Sorrow asked, puzzled. The First Army is in an awkward situation. The former captain and a few other captains broke through to the emperor level and left the First Army. Last time, 3 emperors left at once, so their strength dropped. They are the First Army. Another reason is their bravery. The other 30 armies are full, but when the First Army isn't, they don't take a step back. In every war, they use blood to defend the honor and dignity of the First Army. Today, you beat up the soldiers of the Second Army. Why didn't the Grand Elder and the 7 elders say anything? Because they also feel sorry for the First Army. Lin Piamiao said. They are brave. I will treat them well. Knight Sorrow nodded. Thank you for your kind words, Alliance Master Knight. Tang Ke, thank you. A man brought a few people to the entrance of Knight Sorrow's residence. Before the announcement, his voice was heard. Knight Sorrow and the others arrived at the entrance of the residence and saw 4 people, 1 woman and 3 men. The leader was a thin man. Knight Sorrow, this is the former leader of the First Army, Tang Quebec. He is now the special envoy of the Council of Elders. Lin Piaomiao introduced. After greeting Tang Ke, Knight Sorrow looked at the woman. He knew her. She was Elder Chiu of the God Devil Castle in the eastern region. Elder Chiu. Knight Sorrow cupped his hands at Elder Chiu. Chapter 1864. Elder Chiu, you're too kind. I'll do whatever I can. Knight Sorrow invited Tang Ke and the others into his residence. Yi Shang could understand how Tang Ke, Elder Chiu, and the others felt because he had brothers. His relationship with the members of the God-slaying squad was a reflection of Tang Ke and the others. After sitting down, Tang Ke said some sentimental things. He didn't want to leave the First Army, but he had to leave once he reached the Emperor realm. He had communicated with the Elders Association and hoped to stay, but it didn't work out. He also told the Elders Association to disband the First Army for the sake of peace, but it didn't work out either. We're relieved now that you're in the First Army, Elder Chiu said again. Others might not know about Knight Sorrow, but she did. She had seen some information about Knight Sorrow from Elder Naylan and had sent people to investigate. Therefore, she knew about the situation of Knight Sorrow's team. The Elders Association has arranged for other captains to take over. Because we were worried, we tried our best and didn't let them take over. Of course, there are deaths in war, but we don't want to see our brothers in the First Army sacrifice too much, even if their glory is lost in the long river of history. Glory might be important to others, but we want our brothers to stay alive, another man said. Words from the bottom of his heart. Tang Ke and the others spoke from the bottom of their hearts. After chatting with Knight Sorrow for a while, Tang Ke and the others left. They have deep feelings for the First Army. No matter where they go, they can't let go, Lin Piaomiao said. Yi Shang nodded. He understood this very well. Knight Sorrow, what kind of movement skill did you use today, or should I say, a defensive lost art? The Great Demon King asked. When I was in the space of infinite desolation, I learned a lost art called Spacetime Realm based on the performance of the soul-body lost art. It's quite effective. Knight Sorrow explained the Spacetime Realm. It's not just not bad. This skill is heaven-defying. However, because its attributes don't match, I can only admire it. The Great Demon King had a very high opinion of Knight Sorrow's skill. In a battle, if you wanted to kill your enemy, you had to first protect yourself. Knight Sorrow's Spacetime Realm was almost invincible among those of the same level. Even if there were experts who could attack through the space barrier, the attack power would be greatly reduced, and the threat would not be much. You guys won't be able to cultivate in the Spacetime Realm, but there are still people who can cultivate it. Knight Sorrow explained the soul defense secret technique he had developed to everyone present. Everyone present was a veteran of the Humanitarian League. Knight Sorrow hoped that everyone would become stronger. 0% Alliance Master, do you know that absolute arts are inheritances, and inheritances are usually only accessible to the core members of the clan or sect? Yu Zhu looked at Knight Sorrow and said. Seeing Knight Sorrow pass on the secret technique to everyone without hesitation, Yu Zhu was very touched. In fact, it wasn't just Yu Zhu. The others were the same. We are friends, and we created the Humanitarian League together. So, I hope to see you guys become stronger. No matter when I call for tea, you guys will be there. That is the most important thing. Night Sorrow smiled and said. What is the name of this skill? Pu Luo asked. I only researched it. I didn't give it a name. Night Sorrow shook his head. After hearing Night Sorrow's words, Pu Luo, Ruisi, and the others gave Night Sorrow a look of disdain. Who didn't immediately give it a mighty name after mastering an absolute art? Then, the few of them discussed and named this absolute art, Soul Wave. This was because the principle of this absolute art was to use soul power to create a defense. It sounded simple, but if one didn't know how to use it, they wouldn't be able to practice it. Without a way to condense soul power, the soul power would disperse after leaving the immortal sea without any special ability. The great demon king sighed. League leader, since you are so generous, I can't be stingy. I've cultivated 2 absolute arts. Forget about the saber art, it's useless to tell you guys. However, the soul attack absolute art is pretty good. If it weren't for my strong soul defense and soul defense treasures, I would have been killed in the infinite space. The soul attack absolute art that the great demon king cultivated was an illusion and an attack. Its power was directly proportional to his soul power. After chatting for a while, Night Sorrow felt that the Humanitarian League should have a legacy. He suggested that if possible, they should write down some of their cultivation experiences and leave them in the Humanitarian League for future generations to learn. You can think about it, but you have to be careful. Once our absolute art is exposed to the enemy, there will be some unnecessary trouble. We might even lose, Pu Luo said. It's my fault. After hearing Pu Luo's words, Night Sorrow felt that he hadn't thought about it thoroughly enough. Second tier, it's not a big problem to take out second tier battle skills that you don't use much. First tier absolute arts are not good enough. If we take them out, we have to teach them. The Humanitarian League is a combination of many forces. There are many drawbacks. Lin Piamia supported Pu Luo. Night Sorrow's idea was good, but there were too many implications. After chatting for a while, they went their separate ways. Night Sorrow and the Great Demon King's soul attack and defense absolute arts had to be learned. Knowing the absolute art was one thing, and whether or not they could cultivate it was another. Night Sorrow also received some inspiration. His soul extinguishing slash had produced 3 crescent blades. Although the attack was more powerful, it wasn't focused enough. If he could combine the 3 crescent blades into one, his killing power would increase by a lot. As soon as he thought of this, Night Sorrow shattered the 2 crescent blades. Then, he merged the energy into the remaining crescent blade. In addition, he merged some shocking scenes he had seen into the crescent blade. The soul attack that the Great Demon King had learned in Infinite Desolation was to merge negative scenes with soul power to affect the opponent's consciousness. Night Sorrow felt that negative scenes might not have as much impact as shocking scenes. He incorporated the scene of the Yellow Springs River he had seen in the Land of Evil Execution into the soul-extinguishing Crescent Moon Blade. Cultivating an absolute art wasn't something that could be done overnight. Night Sorrow's clone cultivated while his original body in Yellow Springs River advanced the Soul Destruction Slash. The Soul Destruction Slash was a high-level battle skill. It wasn't at the level of an absolute art. If he merged it with the absolute art that the Great Demon King had taught him, it would become an absolute art with its own characteristics. Night Sorrow's original body was in seclusion, not in an epiphany. He could communicate with his clone at any time. Using the soul power of an immortal emperor, Night Sorrow used his understanding of the void, destruction, and spacetime attributes to master the law of death in a short time. He began to comprehend the will of heaven and earth. Chapter 1865. During normal cultivation, it was unavoidable for one to reach a bottleneck. If one was stuck, it would take a long time. This was the process for a cultivator to achieve something from nothing. However, it was different if one had a foundation. Knight Sorrow cultivated the death attribute and advanced directly. He didn't need to return to his original state to enter the Saint King realm. While comprehending the death attribute, Knight Sorrow's original body was also researching a new soul attack lost art. He didn't need many lost arts. It was enough to have one that could allow him to dominate in a field. Feeling that he needed time to cultivate this lost art, Knight Sorrow's doppelganger entered the 8-dragon cauldron to accelerate time. After cultivating for more than 2 days in the real world, Knight Sorrow finished cultivating the soul-extinguishing slash. The 3 crescent blades of the soul-extinguishing slash became one, but its toughness and attack power had greatly increased. Knight Sorrow also blended into the scene of the flowing Yellow Springs River. After coming out of seclusion, Knight Sorrow and Lin Piaomiao exchanged pointers. Lin Piaomiao was shocked because the illusion brought by Knight Sorrow's soul attack was very strong. The scene was the Yellow Spring River, but it gave people the feeling of reincarnation. It caused a great shock to the soul and spirit. It could even be said to be immersed in it. Why didn't I have the same idea? I made a mistake. Lin Piaomiao shook her head. She was also cultivating a lost art. She had integrated her sword essence into the soul attack. Now that it had taken shape, it couldn't be changed. It was also a sudden idea. I didn't expect the effect to be so good, Knight Sorrow said with a smile. This sudden idea is amazing. One lost art can be cultivated by 100 people and have 100 different effects. Lin Piaomiao was a little emotional because Knight Sorrow's path was different from others. He had his own style. After chatting with Lin Piaomiao for a while, Knight Sorrow arrived at the encampment of the First Army. Look at the original 8x chapter A/LQ at this moment in the encampment of the First Army, the soldiers were cultivating in full swing. They were cultivating the combined attack formation. The scene of Knight Sorrow, Long Jin, and Tianyu using the combined attack formation and rampaging through the First Army was deeply imprinted in the minds of the sergeants of the First Army. After watching for a while, Knight Sorrow called Suodong over. All the sergeants of the First Army are emperors. Why do they still use emperors' weapons? Knight Sorrow took a closer look and found that apart from a few members, most of them were using emperor armaments. Yes. The best weapon is at the imperial level, Suodong said. He didn't understand why Knight Sorrow would ask that. To do a good job, one must first sharpen his tools. I still have some time, so come one by one. I'll upgrade your weapons, Knight Sorrow said. Captain, are you a refiner? Suodong asked in surprise. Due to the limited energy, many accomplished practitioners devoted themselves to cultivation. Good. Come on. Knight Sorrow put the 8-dragon cauldron beside the martial arts practice field and nodded to Suodong. Knight Sorrow didn't study alchemy these days. Instead, he had been studying how to upgrade his weapons. Therefore, his refining skills were at the imperial level. It was not easy to upgrade a weapon. One needed to understand the original formation structure of the weapon. However, Knight Sorrow had studied Yan Wushuang's unparalleled formation, which covered many kinds of formation ultimates. Therefore, it was not difficult to upgrade some weapons. Moreover, the sergeants of the First Army were using standard weapons with similar internal formations. After cultivating every day, Knight Sorrow would stay in the encampment of the First Army to upgrade weapons according to each person's needs. Long Jin, Captain, is so powerful. He can upgrade weapons according to each person's needs. His refining skills are profound. Suodong looked at the 8-dragon cauldron beside the martial arts practice field and said to Long Jin with emotion. Of course. Captain is not only skilled in refining weapons, but also in alchemy and formations. However, upgrading weapons in large quantities is very stressful. Long Jin shook his head. He knew Knight Sorrow well and knew that Knight Sorrow would spare no effort for his brothers. I told Captain to take it slow. However, he said that he didn't know when the war would break out. With the help of the combined attack formation and advanced weapons, our combat strength will be improved and our brothers will be able to come back alive, Zhuodong said. He thought of Tang Ke, who had done the same thing. It took Knight Sorrow 2 months to upgrade the weapons and armors of all the sergeants of the First Army while cultivating. Knight Sorrow had been busy for several years in the accelerated time. Seeing the sergeants of the First Army wearing new armors and holding new weapons, Knight Sorrow was quite successful. When Knight Sorrow nodded with satisfaction, the Grand Elder came to Knight Sorrow and handed him a storage ring. It cost a lot of materials to upgrade these weapons and armors. You can't pay for it. We will fight side by side in the future, so it's not a big deal. Knight Sorrow didn't take the storage ring. Take it. You have to pay for materials as well as effort. The Celestial Wasteland City treats every cultivator who works hard for the Celestial Realm well. The Grand Elder handed the storage ring to Knight Sorrow. Then Knight Sorrow has to take it. Knight Sorrow said with a smile. During this period of time, his small warehouse had indeed consumed a lot of resources. Upgrading weapons and armors required supplementary materials. Knight Sorrow and the Grand Elder talked for a while and asked about the reincarnation battlefield. It still needs time. It's a headache to choose who to send in. But after you join the Celestial Wasteland Army, it won't be a problem. The Grand Elder looked at Knight Sorrow with a smile because Knight Sorrow had really solved the problem. Only emperors could enter the reincarnation battlefield, and there wouldn't be many people. This made the arrangement of personnel a problem for the Assembly of Elders. If the First Army arranged personnel, the others wouldn't be convinced. If the other armies arranged personnel, it would also be difficult to convince them. If the First Army arranged personnel from the other armies, it would be a problem for them to cooperate in battle. Now, under the leadership of Knight Sorrow, the First Army smashed the Second Army's place. They were so domineering that none of the other armies dared to challenge the First Army. How many people will enter? Knight Sorrow asked. 30 people. With the help of the Celestial Wasteland Tower, only about 30 people can enter. So you have to figure out the arrangement. After the Grand Elder left, he didn't have a problem, but Knight Sorrow had a problem. The First Army had 260 people, but only 30 people were allowed to enter. How should he arrange them? Knight Sorrow rubbed his head and called Zhuodong over. Captain, what's the matter? Zhuodong was very excited. The First Army was completely different from the First Army before, so he was in high spirits. I'll give you a mission. Once the reincarnation battlefield opens, the number of people who can enter is limited. Choose 30 people. As for who will enter, the Great Elder will let us choose. You can make the arrangements. After Yi Shang finished speaking, he stood up and left. Chapter 1866. After thinking for a while, Zhuodong gathered all the sergeants of the First Army. Before we get down to business, I'd like to say a few words. The First Army used to be glorious. Under the leadership of Captain Tang, we fought bloody battles and won one war after another. Then, we ushered in a low point. We were very depressed. This depression lasted until Captain Yi came. Captain Knight showed me the glory of the future. In my eyes, all the former and later members are my brothers who can share life and death with me, Zhuodong said while looking at the sergeants. Zhuodong's words brought silence. I just wanted to prove that I have no selfish motives. Now let's get down to business. The transmigration battlefield is about to open, and only 30 of us can enter it. We've worked hard step by step, and you may not have any elders in your family. If you have any elders, please stay. If you have wives and children, please stay too. Being alive is always a responsibility. Squad leaders, you can communicate with each other and choose the right ones. Swadong set the requirement of 30 people. After disbanding, Long Jin and Tianyu went to the Commander-in-Chief's office. Vice Captain, we've been guiding you to practice the combined attack formation since we came here, so we don't have any squads to take us in. Swadong invited Long Jin and Tianyu to sit down and said, you two can cooperate well with Captain Knight, so there's no problem. Tianyu patted his chest and said, I thought we'd have to fight for it. Swadong smiled. He knew that Long Jin and Tianyu came from noble families, but they were very sociable in the team and didn't have any eccentricities. He appreciated them very much. On this day, the First Army was in chaos. Because of the limited number of people, the 10 squads began to compare notes with each other to choose the people who would join the First Army. A day later, the list of names was released. There were also a few who joined later, and they were all people who had participated in the battle for the position of the first vanguard. Their own strength was strong enough. Hu Han, Hua Wuyan, Bai Meng Meng, and Bai Lingling had all entered the list. Knowing that Swadong had handled the matter well, Yi Shang was very satisfied. This was a tricky matter for him. In addition, Knight Sorrow gave an order for the selected members to cultivate the joint attack formation alone. He also told Long Jin and Tianyu to cultivate the joint attack formation no matter how many people there were so that they could form the formation at any time. Inside the sacrificial tower of the magic imperial city, Mo Yutian and Mo Tianji had met. The 100 races of the celestial realm knew that the reincarnation battlefield was about to appear. Naturally, they also knew that they were selecting the best of the best. Heavenly Concubine, with the help of the Saint Demon Altar, I can open up a space-time tunnel that can send about 30 people, Mo Yutian said. The demon ancestor's weapon, the Sky Desolation War Halberd, was left in the reincarnation battlefield. This time, we must get it back. I will stop cultivating so that we can enter, Mo Tianji said. Heavenly Concubine, have you really decided? This is risky, and I don't want you to take this risk. Mo Yutian looked at Mo Tianji, his deep eyes filled with worry. I have decided. The reincarnation battlefield was the place where the 100 races, led by our Demon Wing clan and the human race, fought for supremacy in the previous reincarnation cycle. This time, it is also a small-scale battle for Providence. The demon ancestor was severely injured and fell into a deep sleep after coming back. His weapon is related to the Demon Wing clan's Providence. Mo Tianji was very determined. Zhantian will come out of seclusion soon. Discuss this with him. Mo Yutian said and left. The 3 giants of the Demon Wing clan were Mo Tianji, Mo Yutian, and Mo Zhantian. However, not many people in the Demon Wing clan knew of Mo Zhantian's existence. He had been cultivating in seclusion. Mo Tianji had fused most of the pure silver woman's body with her. Her cultivation had increased to the 6 stars Emperor realm, which was the peak of the Imperial Emperor realm. Although she was only at the peak of the Imperial Emperor realm, Mo Tianji was confident that she could kill an Imperial Emperor realm expert. Translator, Nyoibo Studio Editor, Nyoibo Studio. Mo Tianji stopped cultivating. Once she reached the Imperial Emperor realm, she wouldn't have the chance to enter the reincarnation battlefield. Every day, other than cultivating new absolute arts, Knight Sorrow would watch the soldiers of the First Army cultivate. If there were any areas where they were lacking, Knight Sorrow would give them pointers. After cultivating so many absolute arts, Knight Sorrow had a deep understanding of the combination of attributes. Hence, he had no problem giving pointers to others. Time passed in a tense atmosphere. Knight Sorrow was now full of confidence. He had a new harvest. When he comprehended the death attribute, he found an opportunity to break through in the destruction attribute. He entered the 5 stars Emperor realm and reached the intermediate Imperial Emperor realm. Knight Sorrow's highest achievement was the spacetime attribute. He had grasped 57% of the grand momentum of heaven and earth. He was only 30% away from entering the 6 stars Emperor realm. Although this 30% seemed easy, it required time. Knight Sorrow didn't have the time now because he was in a hurry. He didn't have the time to calm down and cultivate. On this night Sorrow went to the city walls of the desolate Sky City. He looked at the Nirvana Ocean and the Nirvana Storm in a daze. What are you thinking about? You are already an Imperial Emperor's subordinate. How can you be so absent-minded? King Yo-Wu appeared beside Knight Sorrow. Martial uncle. Why are you here? Knight Sorrow asked in surprise. King Yo-Wu usually didn't leave Yo-Wu Mountain. I came over to take a look. Your spirit is good. King Yo-Wu looked at Knight Sorrow and said. I'm sorry to have worried you. I'm doing well. I improved my cultivation in the desolate sky space. However, I didn't enter the advanced Imperial Emperor realm. Knight Sorrow said. You have cultivated for too short a time. If you were given 10,000 years, or even 1,000 years, your achievements would reach a new height. Throughout the celestial realm, countless cultivators don't lack time. What they lack is inspiration. However, you are the opposite. King Yo-Wu said with some emotion. King Yo-Wu told Yi Shang that he had talked with the city master of Tianhuang City and the Great Patriarch. The three of them had thought about whether they should ask Yi Shang to put everything aside for the time being, including the reincarnation battlefield, and focus on improving his cultivation. However, in the end, they felt that this was all fate. Since it happened, it was destined. King Yo-Wu came to ask for Knight Sorrow's opinion. After all, King Yo-Wu was the closest to Knight Sorrow. Martial uncle, I know that this idea is to protect me. However, since the brothers of the First Army are entering, I have no reason to not enter. Furthermore, I am confident. Knight Sorrow said. It's very helpless. Under such circumstances, the three of us are powerless. We can only rely on cultivators below the Imperial Emperor realm in the reincarnation battlefield. Remember, be careful. Otherwise, I won't be able to answer to your master. When you depart, I won't be sending you off. King Yo-Wu patted Knight Sorrow's shoulder and turned to leave. Chapter 1867. Martial uncle is waiting for you at Yawa Mountain to make tea for him. King Yawa stopped but didn't look back. After saying that, he flashed away. It was just a simple sentence, but Knight Sorrow felt King Yawa's care and love. After standing on the city wall for a while, Knight Sorrow returned to his mansion. Knight Sorrow saw the Grand Elder in the mansion. After greeting him, Knight Sorrow made a pot of tea. King Yawu has seen you. You should have made your decision, the Grand Elder said. Knight Sorrow has decided to go. Grand Elder, don't worry too much. Besides, doesn't the City Lord know the Great Prophecy spell? He should know about the situation on the reincarnation battlefield, right? Knight Sorrow took a sip of tea and said. You know the City Lord knows the Great Prophecy spell. King Yawu must have told you, the Grand Elder said. Because the City Lord knew the Great Prophecy spell, not many people knew about it. It's not true, it's not true. In the ethereal Imperial City, Knight Sorrow met the creator of the divine and demon list, Tran Hung, and Tran Hung told Knight Sorrow said. Tran Hung. You really know a lot of important people. But let me tell you, the City Lord's Great Prophecy spell won't work this time because there are too many disturbances on the reincarnation battlefield, including the mysterious power of fate. So, you can choose not to go now. The Grand Elder looked at Knight Sorrow and gave him another choice. Grand Elder, I've decided to go, not because of the City Lord's Great Prophecy spell. Even if I know the future is dangerous, I'm not afraid. I have the courage to declare war against fate. Knight Sorrow's eyes lit up. The Grand Elder didn't say anything. He laughed and walked out. Knight Sorrow had this belief. He had nothing to ask and nothing to worry about. Knight Sorrow slammed the table. He was not afraid of anything. So what if the demon-winged clan, the black dragons, and the flying serpents advanced? Among the cultivators who entered, the highest cultivation level was an imperial emperor. Facing an imperial emperor, Knight Sorrow was not afraid at all. He believed that he could fight any imperial emperor. As for the troops behind him, Knight Sorrow was also confident that the sergeants of the First Army, who had undergone intensive training, were not worse than any other troops. The various forces were waiting for the reincarnation battlefield to appear officially. Everyone estimated the time, but no one could say for sure. Knight Sorrow hoped that he could delay it and buy himself some time. If the death attribute was cultivated to the Overlord level, then after the realm fusion, it would be a level 5 realm. He was looking forward to the realm of 2 supreme attributes controlling 3 advanced attributes. At that time, it would be a level 6 realm, because Knight Sorrow had the power of merit. In the past, Knight Sorrow's realm was very powerful with the power of merit. After receiving the power of the human Tao ceremonies Tao Te Ching, it was even more powerful than before. On this day, when Knight Sorrow was teaching the other sergeants in the First Army, the Grand Elder and the 7 clan elders arrived at the encampment. Seems like there's a result. Knight Sorrow looked at the 2 of them. Yes, it's confirmed. In half a month, we can open the space tunnel and enter. The Grand Elder nodded. Knight Sorrow nodded. He knew that this day was not too far away, but it still came quickly. Inform the 30 selected people to gather their original bodies and avatars. The Grand Elder said. After the original body and avatar fuse, it will only be considered the pressure of 1 person. The more people that enter, the stronger your strength will be. This time, it's very dangerous. If both the original body and avatar die. Lu Chi did not continue, but Knight Sorrow understood that if both the original body and avatar died, then they would truly disappear from the world. Okay, let me know when the time comes. Knight Sorrow nodded. The reality was somewhat different from his estimation. Originally, Knight Sorrow had decided to go with his original body and avatar, but he wanted the others to stay behind. When he returned to the residence, Knight Sorrow received a piece of good news. The Sikong Chuyu had entered the King realm, and his lifespan was endless. Knight Sorrow was truly happy. The King realm represented the transcendence of the world's restrictions on lifespan. Of course, nothing was set in stone. Emperors had to endure Emperor's tribulation and Emperor's tribulation. These were things that the rank 8 king did not understand. 6th senior sister, 9th senior sister, how much longer do you need? Knight Sorrow asked Aoi and Yang Lei. Knight Sorrow had several wives. Xueshi had arrived at the King realm a few years ago because her foundation was deeper than the Sikong Chuyu, Aoi, and Yang Lei. We've been Saint Kings for a while. Are you afraid that we can't reach the King realm? Our age is just the beginning in the eyes of other cultivators, right? Yang Lei said with a smile. That's true. There's really nothing to worry about. Knight Sorrow smiled. Aoi and Yang Lei's aptitudes weren't bad. Knight Sorrow had also given them Yun spirit pills. Reaching the King realm wasn't difficult. Knight Sorrow, you might not know. You're the Merit Emperor. We're your family. Unknowingly, we've been blessed by the heavens. Some problems can be solved. Lin Piamiao said. Knight Sorrow's heart was at ease. Knight Sorrow wasn't worried about his children. Because of their bloodline, his children were extremely talented. He didn't have to worry about their cultivation prospects. He had always been worried about his mother and wife. But after thinking about it, he felt that there was enough time. They were already a few hundred years old. They were still far away from the 10,000-year lifespan limit of the King Realm. Knight Sorrow didn't tell Sikong Chuyu and the others that he was going to enter the reincarnation battlefield. He didn't want his family to worry. Knight Sorrow didn't say anything, so Lin Piaomiao didn't say anything either. After sending off his wives, Knight Sorrow nodded to Lin Piaomiao, "Thank you for hiding it for me. I know you don't want others to worry. So I can only support you." Lin Piaomiao looked at Knight Sorrow and said. Knight Sorrow held Lin Piaomiao's hand. He didn't say anything. Everything was understood without words. "How's your death attribute cultivation going? We don't know if you've been staying in the Yellow Spring River," Lin Piaomiao said. During this period of time, Knight Sorrow's original body had been staying in the Yellow Spring River to cultivate. Even Lin Piaomiao and Datura who came with him didn't know about it. "I've passed the perfect will. I'm trying to comprehend the force of heaven and earth. I'm at the half-step Emperor realm. There's still half a month's time. Maybe I'll have a chance to reach the Emperor realm. But I don't have enough time to fuse my domain." Knight Sorrow told Lin Piaomiao about his situation. "You don't have to fight immediately after entering the reincarnation battlefield. You have time to fuse. You just have to cultivate your death attribute to the Emperor realm in the Yellow Spring River," Lin Piaomiao said. Knight Sorrow was looking forward to it. He had 5 times the time acceleration. Half a month's time meant that he could cultivate for 3 months. The original body and doppelgangers of the First Army had already gathered. Even if they had to face the danger of dying, no one was afraid. Knight Sorrow was indeed a little anxious. He wanted to enter the reincarnation battlefield as soon as it appeared. Chapter 1868. On the 13th day, which was 2 days before they set off for the Samsara battlefield, and even before Knight Sorrow ended his cultivation, he made some progress in his death attribute cultivation. He had reached the Emperor level. Knight Sorrow didn't have any plans to cultivate the death attribute to a very high level. He just needed to reach the Emperor rank and have a domain before he could perfectly merge it with his main domain. After leaving the Yellow Springs River and landing on the shore, Knight Sorrow felt very relaxed. He had been under pressure in the Yellow Springs River. With the addition of the force of heaven and earth, Knight Sorrow felt that the world was clearer in his eyes. When Knight Sorrow came out of seclusion, Lin Piaomiao came out of the Linglong Pagoda. "Did you succeed?" Lin Piaomiao asked. "This time is really timely. We have to leave the day after tomorrow. Today, I have comprehended 10% of the force of heaven and earth. I am already the Emperor of the Death Attribute," Knight Sorrow said. At this moment, he was very excited. After the domain merged, his strength would increase by leaps and bounds. B6 After talking with Lin Piaomiao for a while, Knight Sorrow didn't disturb Datura who was cultivating and left. At this time, Datura didn't come out. That meant that he was in a state of enlightenment and couldn't stop. After returning to the First Territory's encampment, Knight Sorrow entered the Haotian God Pagoda. His doppelganger kept the Haotian God Pagoda in his divine sea. This way, he could accelerate time and study the domain. Knight Sorrow practiced his spear arts for a while. Long Jin and Tianyu came back. "Where did you guys go?" "We have to leave the day after tomorrow at the latest." Knight Sorrow kept the blood chill and evil slaying spear and said. "We went to stock up. We don't know what kind of place the reincarnation battlefield is. We prepared some good wine and meat. We can't let ourselves suffer, right?" Tianyu said. "You two, one is the golden dragon and the other is the green rock. Both of you are gluttons. Have you prepared enough?" Knight Sorrow asked with a smile. "Ha! The two of us felt that the heavenly desolate city was not good enough, so we went to the divine capital to solve the problem." 13. Do you think it's enough?" Tianyu said with a smile. When have I ever been worried about the two of you? If it weren't for you guys, I would have gone to clean up the place as well, Night Sorrow said. Brothers, I'm so happy to be together. This time, we're going to turn the reincarnation battlefield into our territory. Black dragons. Let's see if they dare to fight me. Do you still recognize the golden scales on my body? If they really dare to rebel, then in the future, there will be nothing left to say. My big uncle, don't stop me. I'll catch them and torture them to death, said Long Jean. Don't worry. No matter who you want to fight, and no matter if you have a reason or not, we will always be by your side. Night Sorrow nodded at Long Jean. Yes, that's the feeling. Tianyu, what do you mean? Why don't you dare to say anything? Long Jean reached out and bumped Night Sorrow's hand, then looked at Tianyu. You don't make sense. Do I, Tianyu, look like someone who's afraid of trouble? Long Jean, we'll deal with whoever you don't like. Tianyu said. You said that, but why didn't you tell me that you were bullied by that Heaven's Cliffs? Long Jean looked at Tianyu and brought up another topic. You're being unreasonable. When I came out of the Green Rock race, the first person I saw was 13, and then you. Besides, we were about the same. If I was beaten up, would I drag you down with me? Tianyu explained. Strength is another matter. We can drink together, but can't we take a beating together? I've never tried being beaten together, but it's definitely better than being beaten up alone. Take these words to heart. Don't make me unhappy because of this, Long Jean said to Tianyu. I understand. In the future, no matter if it's good or bad, I'll definitely drag you down with me. Tianyu reached out his hand. Long Jean smiled and also reached out his hand to bump Tianyu's. Night Sorrow then asked Tianyu and Long Jean if they needed his help with the weapons and armor. After asking, Night Sorrow gave the two a thumbs up, then turned and left. Why? Because their parents had already arranged for them. They were all high-grade goods, treasures that Night Sorrow couldn't make. Night Sorrow could also understand. The Golden Dragon race and the Green Rock race were both mythical beast races with the longest inheritance. The celestial realm might have existed before them, or even before the human race. How could such a race not have a deep heritage? As the most direct descendants of the two races, Long Jean and Tianyu naturally received the strongest support. Night Sorrow entered the mansion and found a table full of food and wine. Sister Xian Er, did you make this? I don't think I've seen you cook alone before. Night Sorrow said as he took the towel that Lin Piaomiao handed over. I haven't done it before, but I'm not stupid. I've helped Chu Yu and the others and watched them do it. How could I not learn? Lin Piaomiao said. Very good. Night Sorrow sat down. The two drank a small cup of wine. Then, Lin Piaomiao emphasized to Night Sorrow the things to take note of when entering the reincarnation battlefield. Lin Piaomiao said the worst-case scenario. She wanted Night Sorrow to bring the people and find a safe place. She even said that they should hide in a space treasure and wait for the reincarnation battlefield to appear before leaving. Don't worry. After all these years of training, my experience is not bad. I was exiled in Tianhuang for 8 years. Who can do anything to me? You have to trust your man. Night Sorrow said with a smile. The next day, Night Sorrow went to the martial arts practice field of the first station and gathered the 30 people who were going to fight. Tomorrow is the day of departure. This is the first time that I, Night Sorrow, will take you to the battlefield. The situation of the reincarnation battlefield is unknown. I can't guarantee that I can bring all of you back. But what I can do is to stay by your side. Night Sorrow said. Captain, you worry too much. As sergeants of the First Army, we have the consciousness to shed blood for glory. Swadong said. Then I'll talk about it. When you enter the reincarnation battlefield, the first rule is to obey orders and not question them. The second rule is that I hope everyone can come back alive. I'll give you half a day to make the final preparations. Yi Saro waved his hand and dismissed everyone. Lu Qi entered the martial arts practice field. I wanted to remind you, but it seems that I don't need to. Are you sure we'll set off tomorrow? Knight Saro asked. Yes. Tomorrow at noon, the Patriarch will use the Heaven Wasteland Pagoda to open the space-time tunnel. You'll be in there for about 2 years. 1 year later, the reincarnation battlefield will appear in Nirvana Ocean. 2 years later, it will be closer to the Nirvana Ocean Bridge. Emperor should be able to travel back. Lu Qi told Knight Saro the time limit. Understood. Knight Saro nodded. To you, this is a small matter. Back then, when I exiled you to Heavenly Wasteland for 8 years, didn't you live a carefree life and come back alive and kicking? Lu Qi smiled at Yishan. Chapter 1869. Didn't he come back alive and well? Lu Qi emphasized the words, alive, again. After stopping Knight Saro, he turned and left. Knight Saro had already made the arrangements, so there was nothing for him to do. There was no need to urge him. Knight Saro wanted to say something, but Lu Qi had already left. Helplessly shaking his head, Knight Saro didn't have anything to say. Lu Qi was still very good to him. Knight Saro remembered something. In a few months, Wu Lingfei would ascend to the throne of the Ice Phoenix race. He had to enter the reincarnation battlefield, so he couldn't make it in time. This made Knight Saro feel bad. After thinking for a while, Knight Saro returned to the mansion to find Pu Luo. Pu Luo, do me a favor. Knight Saro looked at Pu Luo and said. Between us, you're talking about helping. It's meaningless. Pu Luo glanced at Knight Saro. After I made my debut, the person who helped me the most was Wu Lingfei, who is about to ascend to the throne of the Ice Phoenix race. I call her Aunt Fei. In half a year, she will ascend to the throne. I promised to attend the ceremony, but because I have to go to the reincarnation battlefield, I won't have time. So I want to make a gift. Knight Saro said. Well, I understand. What do you want me to do? Pu Luo asked. Give me some of the materials you used to make the human emperor's gold brick. I will make a weapon, then inject the human emperor's power into it and give it to her. This way, when she fights in the future, Aunt Fei won't hurt her own merit and destiny. Knight Saro said. About that. No problem, I will help you. Pu Luo said and disappeared. He had entered the space treasure. Knight Saro was stunned. Pu Luo didn't ask him what he wanted to make and ran away. However, Knight Saro felt that no matter what he made, as long as it was a gift from him, Wu Lingfei would like it. Today, several people from the Humanitarian League were at Knight Saro's mansion. They knew that Knight Saro would depart tomorrow. The princess of the Ice Phoenix race, the future king. If you respect Knight Saro so much, then you are destined to be a member of our Humanitarian League, the Great Demon King said. I don't think Auntie Fei will mind, but thank you all for your acceptance. Knight Saro cupped his hands towards everyone. Knight Saro, let's not mention that you are my junior brother. Your style of doing things is recognized by everyone, and we will not reject the people you approve of. Because their morals are bad, they will not be able to obtain your approval. Fen Tian said with a smile. In less than an hour, Pu Luo came out with a golden brick of human Dao. Ha! You can shoot whoever you want. Pu Luo threw the gold brick to Knight Saro. Knight Saro took out the human emperor's seal and inserted the power of virtue. He wanted to inject some human emperor's power into the human Dao gold brick. This time, it was different from before. Knight Sorrow's body and the human emperor's seal were filled with the words of the human emperor's ceremony and the Book of Dao. Soon, Knight Sorrow completed the enhancement of the human Dao gold brick and handed it to Lin Piaomiao. He couldn't go, so it was more suitable for Lin Piaomiao to go on his behalf. I say, why is the enhancement different this time? Pu Luo looked at Knight Sorrow with his eyes wide open. I obtained some opportunities in Tianhuang. I obtained the human emperor's ceremony and the Book of Dao that was lost by the human race. Knight Sorrow said with a smile. You are too unkind. Not only did you obtain such a great reward, you also didn't enhance our gold brick. The great demon king looked at Knight Sorrow with dissatisfaction. I didn't know the enhancement effect would increase. Plus, you didn't ask me what I obtained, Knight Sorrow said with a smile. Then stop wasting time. Enhance our gold brick again. The great demon king took out his human Dao gold brick and placed it in front of Knight Sorrow. Yuzhu, Ruisi, and Pu Luo didn't stand on ceremony and took out their gold bricks. Knight Sorrow could only buff everyone's human Dao gold bricks once more. When you go to the reincarnation battlefield, don't worry and kill. No one will dare to provoke the Humanitarian League. Don't worry about the first territory. If anyone dares to cause trouble when you are not around, I will take care of it. Let's see who dares to not give me face, the great demon king said to Knight Sorrow. Also, regarding the coronation of the Ice Phoenix Princess, the Humanitarian League will send a congratulatory gift. We must give face. Pu Luo also assured Knight Sorrow. Knight Sorrow cupped his hands and didn't say anything. There was no need for him to say anything. They had already taken care of everything he was worried about. Let's go. The Twilight Tea House is the most beautiful place on a night like this, Yuzhu suggested. Let's go. I love tea, so I won't pay for it. The great demon king stood up and muttered a despicable sentence. After drinking tea and resting at the Night Moon Villa, Knight Sorrow returned to the encampment of the first territory of the Heavenly Wasteland City and gathered 30 people, including himself. I'm so excited. Ever since you left us behind after entering the Imperial Realm, we have missed fighting together. Today, the feeling is back, Tianyu said excitedly. Are you not afraid? Sua Dong looked at Tianyu and asked. You don't understand. I'm excited. Back in the days, I followed Brother 13 and a group of brothers and ran amok in our realm. We killed and set fires. It was so comfortable. Tianyu patted his chest and said. Killed and set fires. Did you rob anyone? Bai Lingling asked. Originally, Bai Lingling didn't like Knight Sorrow because she was born in the noble Nine-Tailed Fox clan. However, everything changed after she came to the first territory. Knight Sorrow had a character that she respected. After joining the team, they often talked and laughed. Now that there was a chance, Bai Lingling naturally wanted to bully Tianyu. Tianyu, if you don't explain clearly, our captain's reputation will be ruined. Flower Without Words also said. He had been bullied by Tianyu many times because he didn't know anything about formations. Tianyu had scolded him many times when he was practicing the combined attack formation. He had even been hit on the head by Tianyu. It was a slip of the tongue. It was really a slip of the tongue. Killing and setting fires are tactical arrangements. We have never robbed anyone before. Needless to say, when our captain was an Imperial Realm expert, he fought with Donghao Mountain, a force with 2 Imperial Emperors in the Ethereal Dynasty. The mayor's mansion wasn't burned. The mayor wasn't killed. Therefore, it's reasonable to kill and set fires, Tianyu quickly explained. An Imperial Realm expert fought with a force with 2 Imperial Emperors. Sua Dong and the others were stunned. Tianyu, you're exaggerating. I'm not as strong as them, so I can only rely on tactics. I'll leave after the fight and fight in another place. Fortunately, the result is ideal. They're convinced, Knight Sorrow said with a smile. Tianyu, if you have time, set up a stool. We'll serve you with good tea and wine. Tell us, Bai Lingling said. You don't feel any pressure at all. Very good. Let's go and meet in front of the everlasting tower. The Grand Elder appeared. Yi Shang led the group to the front of the Heaven Wasteland Tower and saw the city Lord of Heaven Wasteland surrounded by energy. However, Knight Sorrow felt different this time. After becoming the Imperial Realm expert of the Death Element, he could see the essence of the world clearly. Looking at section IXR of HX Chapter 1 Unspecified Currency P. Knight Sorrow was shocked when he saw the mayor. He was sure that Tran Hung, who wrote the Celestial Demon List, was the mayor. Chapter 1870. Counting the time, minute by minute, second by second, when we entered August, we were all hoping that the Devil Fruit's data wouldn't change. Yes, this was a battle of honor. Maybe at the start, we thought that as long as we worked hard, even if we lost, it would be an honorable defeat. But I had to say that everyone who liked Myriad Daos, including me, hoped that we could win in the end. We counted the time together and hoped for the results we wanted. At such moments, our heartbeats quickened and our blood surged. It was as if our bloodline was about to awaken. The results were exciting. A month of hard work, it was worth it. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation Special thanks to Chin 9857, UK 45, Punishment Demon King, Plowlands, Myriad Daos, Shachong Tian, Rainy Night Juiying, Ming Ming, Ishi, Zhang Ziwen, Shin Jianqing, Faith Square Root. Fatty Yen, Call Me Brother Fei, Oh You is Porridge, Meng Meng, Evil One Ming, Cockroach, Residual Fragrance, Zombie, Meat, Fatty Yen, I am Yun Yun and other brothers and sisters. I have been writing for many years and for half a year, I thought of giving up on writing. So when I started my new book, Myriad Daos Road to Godhood, there were only a few old brothers by my side. They asked me why I didn't tell my old brothers. I said, let's wait for Myriad Daos Road to Godhood to have results. But now, a year has passed and my brothers have followed me from the start of Myriad Daos to now and we have the results that we wanted. Many old fans have followed Cool Craftsman and returned to my side. It wasn't easy. Recently, due to the event, the book review wasn't peaceful. Harmony was very important and competition was indispensable in the event. Competition was competition. It wasn't easy for writers. They had to lay on the keyboard every day, typing word by word. If they were satisfied, it was fine. If they weren't, they would be scolded. That kind of feeling was indescribable. We are all the same, working hard for our own dreams. Everyone, please be more understanding. As for the suggestions that fans said to ignore, the author was lying to himself. From the start, a book was filled with blood, sweat, and tears. It was like one's own child. Who wouldn't care about the reviews? Actually, Shizi was very happy about the competition this time, but he also felt a little guilty. He was happy that everyone's hard work and we got the honor that belonged to Myriad Daos Road. He felt guilty for making everyone spend so much money. To be honest, Mr. Breakfast and the group used the money from breakfast to support Shizi. I think there will be a lot of similar situations. Many of my brothers are students, and they are not well off. Some people say that our Myriad Daos has godly tycoons and nouveau riches, but whose money isn't earned through hard work. Speaking from the bottom of his heart, Shizi wasn't willing to earn some money because it would hurt his brothers. Brothers were the most precious wealth in a lifetime. With you guys around, we can do anything. When he typed this sentence, Shizi was deeply moved in his heart. Some people might say that Shizi is a hypocrite, but those who read my books will be able to see Shizi's character from the books. Men were indomitable, upright. They were whatever they had. Reading books is my duty, and support is a favor. Shizi will remember your support in my heart. July was a month when Shizi dragged everyone down. Everyone was working very hard. In August, Shizi did his best to repay them. He bowed to express his gratitude. Chapter 1871. Knight Sorrow was taken aback. He had failed to take down the dragon-headed dragon after fighting for a long time. "Captain, he's dead," White Meng Meng said. "This kind of demonic beast is good at close combat and has great strength. But its sole defense is its weakness," Knight Sorrow said. "The Emperor is not that good," Tiger Cold said as he kicked the dragon-headed man's body. "Not that good. You can try next time." Tianyu glanced at Tiger Cold. "I'll pass." Tiger Cold shook his head. Knight Sorrow shook his head as he looked at the dragon-headed man's body. He didn't know what race it was. Then he asked the others, but no one could tell what kind of demonic beast it was or what race it was. Long Jean stepped forward to check it. Then he looked at Knight Sorrow and said, "Captain, it seems to have the bloodline of dragons." "Black dragons. It shouldn't be." Knight Sorrow rubbed his head. The reincarnation battlefield had sunk into the Nirvana Ocean at the beginning of this reincarnation, so it shouldn't have anything to do with the black dragons. It definitely has the bloodline of black dragons, but it's not pure enough. Long Jean checked it again and said with certainty. "Then take it back and let the Castellan and the Grand Elder identify it. Swadong, collect the materials." Knight Sorrow shouted at Swadong. Swadong was stunned. "Captain, the resources in the First Territory are managed by the warehouse and registration. It's not appropriate for me to collect the spoils." "Then you'll be the manager. Someone just needs to register and record the corpse." Knight Sorrow put away the dragon-headed man's body. Then Bai Lingling and the first scout named Zhongjiu set off again and began to investigate. Knight Sorrow followed behind them with his men. Zhongjiu reported the situation to Bai Lingling. Bai Lingling drew a map and edited the mountains and rivers as they moved forward. "Leader, help me. Another dragon-headed person is attacking me. This one has wings." Bai Lingling, who had just recorded the information and put away the map, said to Knight Sorrow anxiously. Knight Sorrow said to Bai Lingling's true body, "His soul defense is weak. Have your clone use a soul attack first and bring me there." "I tried, but it didn't work. My soul illusion attack was blocked by his soul defense. His speed is also relatively fast. I can't take it." Bai Lingling was a little anxious. Knight Sorrow didn't say anything. Bai Lingling's true body flew and quickly met up with her clone. A dragon-headed person was chasing after Bai Lingling's clone. Soul defense is different. Let's try again. Knight Sorrow raised his left hand and sent out a desolate nirvana palm. A giant energy hand appeared and blocked the dragon-headed person's pursuit of Bai Lingling. Then, it slapped towards the dragon head. Knight Sorrow then used the soul extinguishing slash. The soul extinguishing slash had a crescent blade with a purple glow. It sliced through space and cut through the head of the dragon-headed person that was chasing after Bai Lingling's clone. With the influence and control of the desolate Nirvana palm, the dragon-headed person couldn't dodge Knight Sorrow's soul attack. The defensive halo around its head was cut open and the crescent blade of the soul extinguishing slash cut through its head. Just like the first dragon-headed person that Knight Sorrow had killed, its divine sea was shattered by Knight Sorrow. When they reached the dragon-headed person's corpse, Night Sorrow checked and confirmed that it was really dead. A palm strike and a soul attack, and this emperor-ranked dragon-headed person is dead. Suodong, who had just arrived with his men, was shocked. Night Sorrow was too strong. Long Jean, check again. Night Sorrow said to Long Jean. Shame. This is the offspring of a black dragon and another race. Long Jean nodded at Night Sorrow. Dragons were arrogant and almost never married other races. Night Sorrow looked at Long Jean and didn't say anything else. He told Suodong to take back the weapon and put the dragon-headed person's corpse into his storage ring. Captain, if your soul attack can kill it, why can't mine? Bai Lingling still didn't understand. One's addition, your soul attack and my soul attack are different in nature. Your soul attack is more of an illusion and mainly has negative effects. It is used to support the real attack. My soul attack mainly attacks the soul and divine sea. The dragon-headed person's soul defense is used to counteract the negative effects on the soul, which is perfect for your illusion attack. After thinking for a while, Night Sorrow understood the theory. Then, Bai Lingling explained it to the others. Aren't you bullying me? Bai Lingling said unhappily. The question is, are you even human? Flower Without Words said. You idiot. How dare you insult me? Bai Lingling stared at Flower Without Words angrily. Flower Without Words took a step back because Bai Lingling would go berserk and bite people easily. Then, the group continued to move forward and Bai Lingling continued to draw the map. Bai Lingling, your skills are good. You can draw a map and set up a stall. You won't have to worry about making a living. Night Sorrow said with a smile. Humph. A good map. Then I'll sell it to Captain for 10,000 Saint Spirit Stones after I draw it. Bai Lingling looked at Night Sorrow with disdain. Okay. When you become a peerless master one day, the value of this map will be great. Night Sorrow said. Sister Lingling, you only asked for 10,000. I overheard Elder Zizhen talking to an elder of the 100 Races Elder Association. The elder of the human race said that night, our captain stole tens of millions of Saint Spirit Stones from the demon-winged clan. You asked for 10,000. What a loss. Bai Meng said. I'm not selling it. Bai Lingling changed her mind. If a man dares to change his mind, I'll despise him. As for a woman, forget it. I'll bear with it. Night Sorrow said with a smile. 10,000 Saint Spirit Stones for a map is a sky-high price. If you don't want to sell it, you won't be able to sell it even for 1,000 Saint Spirit Stones. Suodong said. Even if I can't sell it, I won't sell it at a low price. Is that okay? Bai Lingling said. Suodong and the others laughed. The atmosphere was no longer tense. Then, they continued to move forward. Night Sorrow sent Bai Lingling and Zhongjiu to explore. Captain, if you go to explore, you'll be clearing the path. Bai Meng asked. It's not that I'm lazy. My original body can't fight. It's still comprehending something, which has a great impact on my combat strength. In order to better solve some dangerous situations, I want to improve my strength as soon as possible. As for my doppelganger, it's better to stay with the others. Night Sorrow said. Captain, I'm just kidding. Just take it as a joke. Bai Meng was stunned by Night Sorrow's formal explanation. Let's continue to move forward. Be careful. If you see any small beasts, catch them. Let's camp at night. We must have good wine and meat. Night Sorrow changed the topic. The team moved forward, but Night Sorrow and Long Jean were at the back. They had something to talk about. Long Jean confirmed that the dragon-headed man had the bloodline of the black dragons. After killing the second dragon-headed man, Night Sorrow confirmed that the dragon-headed man had the bloodline of the demon-winged clan. Chapter 1872. Captain, their speed is the demon-winged race's innate talent. Their strength might be due to the black dragon's bloodline, said Long Jean. But the problem is, be it the black dragons or the demon-winged race, their sole defense shouldn't be this weak, right? Night Sorrow voiced his confusion. These bastards haven't fully evolved, so they have flaws. Also, not every cultivator has a soul attack absolute art. If they met you, they would be countered, but if they met other cultivators, their advantage would still be very obvious. Long Jean shared his opinion. The demon-winged race and the black dragons can combine. Could there be a black dragon that can transform into a human? Night Sorrow slapped his forehead. We haven't been alive for long, so there are some things we don't understand. Perhaps we'll find out after we go back and talk to the elders and my uncle. Long Jean couldn't figure it out either. The dragon-headed men were very violent. As long as they met, they would attack the scouts. However, there weren't many high-rank ones. When they set up camp at night, Night Sorrow killed 3 Emperor-ranked dragon-headed men. The Emperor-ranked dragon-headed men didn't need to be killed by Night Sorrow. They were given to the soldiers of the First Army to practice their joint attack formation. Reality proved that only Night Sorrow had an easier time killing them. The others had a harder time killing them. After setting up camp, Tianyu started working. He caught a huge python and naturally roasted it. Everyone ate and drank. After a day of fighting, no one felt any pressure. This kind of training is very enjoyable. There's no pressure, it's all excitement, said Hu Shao. Take your time to feel it. Follow my 13th brother and you'll eat and drink well, said Tianyu. After eating and drinking, the group began to meditate and rest. A bunch of idiots, still meditating in the night wind, Tianyu took out a tent and set it up. This made the soldiers of the First Army who were sitting around the fire stare blankly because they had never experienced this before. Long Jean also took out a tent and set it up. Don't look at people like that. You're the ones who don't have any ideas. You're the foolish ones. Leader, take a look. These two are in the wrong. When we came here, we said that we would live and die together. Since we are going to live and die together, we will naturally share our blessings and hardships together. What are they doing? White Meng Meng said. All right. Tianyu, give your tent to the woman. You can squeeze with Long Jean. Night Sorrow shouted at Tianyu. After glaring at Bai Lingling and White Meng Meng, Tianyu could only move to Long Jin's tent. Brothers, are you stupid? Who would want to enjoy the wind when there's a comfortable place? Hu Shao shouted. He ignored Long Jin and went straight into the tent. With Hu Shao taking the lead, the others began to enter as well. They all ran into Long Jin's tent. Even though Long Jin's tent was big enough, it was still very crowded. Hu Shao, you're on duty tonight. Start patrolling, Night Sorrow shouted at the tent. Hu Shao curled his lips and left the tent. Patrolling was a must. After the arrangements were made, Night Sorrow boiled a pot of water, took out a tea table, and brewed some tea. Then, he set up his tent and moved the tea table into the tent. Animal. This was Bai Lingling's comment when she saw the situation outside the tent. Night Sorrow's tent was too big. White Meng Meng didn't comment and directly entered Night Sorrow's tent. Why did you enter my tent? Night Sorrow glanced at White Meng Meng and Bai Lingling, who came in after her. Drink tea. White Meng Meng took out a praying mat and sat at the tea table. White Meng Meng's answer was very righteous. Yi Shang thought for a while and didn't know how to answer. He could only nod. At this moment, a group of male soldiers who were fighting for territory in the tent noticed the commotion. Our leader's tent is the best. It's made of caltrip leather, and it's impervious to heat and cold. Flower without words said. You guys don't want to admit it. Long Jean and I learned how to play in the tent from Captain, Tianyu said. When a group of people rushed into Yishang's tent, Yishang made a decision. In the future, when he was with the sergeants of the First Army, he would no longer make tea. Hu Xiao poked Sui Dong and said, "Look at the captain's eyes." Tea tasting. Do you know anything about tea tasting? What about drinking water? Or do you drink? Yishang was so angry that the teapot was empty and still in Sui Dong's hand. No one made a sound. At this time, whoever made a sound would be waiting to be dealt with. We are all boorish people. We don't know how to do that. Chong Jiu said after an awkward silence. It seems that just teaching you fighting skills isn't enough. When we get back later, I'll take you to the tea tasting area to have a look. Otherwise, you won't be presentable, Night Sorrow said. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation, no one told us that before. Sui Dong said innocently. Well, you may not know that Captain Tang Ke and Elder Chiu have met me before. They hope that you can live a good life. Being a sergeant is for glory and for the stability of the celestial realm. But one day, you will have to leave and live a stable life, Night Sorrow said. Sui Dong and the others were silent. Night Sorrow's words made them feel emotional. I'm sorry for talking too much and making you unhappy. Well, I won't blame you for drinking my tea today, Night Sorrow said with a smile. Sui Dong and the others smiled. They knew that the First Army had once again welcomed a reliable and considerate captain. Captain, are we here to kill? What's the task? Bai Lingling asked. I forgot to tell everyone. We need to find a large mountain. That's where the human emperor and the demon-winged clan's demon ancestor fought. We need to find a weapon and the remains of the human emperor, said Yishang. We need to find a mountain. That's where the human emperor fought with the demon-winged clan's demon ancestor. Are you sure that the skeleton is still in the Samsara battlefield? Sui Dong asked. Yes, the weapon is called the Infinite Halberd, or the Great Halberd of the Primitive Halberd. In the last Samsara, the Infinite Halberd was called the Primitive Halberd. The Infinite Halberd is the most precious treasure of the Demon Wing clan. The skeleton of the human emperor is a great honor for the human clan and the 100 clans. We must take it back, Night Sorrow said. Let's bring a fortune teller with us. It'll be much easier for us to do a divination, Qi Jing, a captain of the First Army, said. The governor and the Grand Elder must have thought of the same thing. The Samsara battlefield is full of the power of destiny. Divination is ineffective, Night Sorrow said with a smile. Qi Jing, let's fight. We're not smart enough, Sui Dong patted Qi Zheng's shoulder and said. At this time, Mo Tianji arrived in another area of the Samsara battlefield with a team of people. This time, Mo Tianji came not only for the Infinite Halberd but also for Jun Xuanji. The Samsara battlefield was moving. When it was officially born, she would have a chance to enter the celestial realm through the blockade of the Infinite Halberd and find Jun Xuanji. Chapter 1873. Mo Tianji was now an imperial emperor, but she was confident that she could defeat any imperial emperor. She wasn't even afraid of an imperial emperor. She was one of the 3 great heavens of the Demon Wing clan, Mo Tianji. She had once killed an imperial emperor as easily as taking something out of her pocket. After finding the Infinite Desolation Halberd and obtaining the remains of the human sovereign, Mo Tianji could hand them over to others to bring back to Infinite Desolation. She could sneak into the celestial realm and see what was going on with her doppelganger. Mo Tianji already knew about Jun Xuanji. Back then, Sha Mo's doppelganger went to Jun Xuanji's side, while his original body stayed by Mo Xianta's side and took orders from him. Mo Xianta passed the information to Mo Tianji through his original body, so she knew about some details about Jun Xuanji. Mo Xiantu and the others were killed, but Mo Tianji felt that it was still unknown whether Sha Mo's doppelganger was exposed or not. If it wasn't, then everything would go smoothly. Then, she could take Jun Xuanji away or let nature take its course. Even if it was exposed, Mo Tianji knew that humans wouldn't touch Jun Xuanji if they weren't completely sure. As for being completely sure, it was impossible because Jun Xuanji's soul was sealed deep inside. It was impossible to investigate. Solving Jun Xuanji's problem was one of Mo Tianji's ideas. The other was Night Sorrow. She had to solve Night Sorrow's problem to have a chance to get her body back. Taking a deep breath, Mo Tianji pointed her right arm forward and gave the order for the team to set off. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. Other than Night Sorrow and Mo Tianji, the team led by the Black Dragons and supported by the White-Winged Serpents had also arrived. They also wanted to achieve something in the reincarnation battlefield. After a night's rest, Night Sorrow led the team forward. Captain, the reincarnation battlefield is a spatial world. But I don't understand its attributes, Tianyu asked as they moved forward. The reincarnation battlefield's known history has been 8 eras. Plus the unknown time in the past, it should have been destroyed long ago. Now, it's still safe and sound. It's already mutated. It's hard to say what its attributes are, Night Sorrow said. In normal worlds, there was a great apocalypse cycle. Normally, it would last for 1 trillion years, or 10 epochs, or 1 cycle. With the reincarnation battlefield's known history and its previous lifespan, it was clearly past the Great Calamity cycle. However, it still existed. This was already illogical. It doesn't matter what element it is. What's important is that we get to the mission location as soon as possible and find the Sky Desolation Halberd and the human sovereign remains. After the mission is completed, we can do whatever we want with the rest of the time, Qijing said. Night Sorrow nodded. Yes, this mission is too important. It concerns the fate of the 100 tribes of the Celestial Realm and the Demon-Winged Clan. It's currently the 8th era of this reincarnation cycle. The last era of every reincarnation cycle is a period where both sides fight to the death. Therefore, what we can do for the 100 Tribes Alliance is to increase the fate of the human race and suppress the enemy's momentum. 13th brother, you are the realm lord of the 9 regions world. No matter what great calamity it is, it won't affect you, right? Tianyu asked. I don't know about that either. However, you know the situation of the 9 regions world. It's a newborn world with a lifespan of only tens of thousands of years. The great calamity of this reincarnation cycle shouldn't have anything to do with the 9 regions world. However, the 3 great worlds of the Chaos Realm should suffer a calamity, Night Sorrow said. If the 9 regions world is fine, then we will have a stable place to retreat. Captain, when the time comes, it won't be a problem for some of my relatives in the Hylon world to develop in the 9 regions world, right? Long Jean asked. We are brothers. Naturally, there won't be any problems. Night Sorrow nodded. He understood. Although Long Jean knew his true origins, it was difficult for him to erase his feelings for the Hylon world. It was just like how he couldn't bear to part with Bamboo Garden Village after knowing that he was from the Night Moon Dynasty. Realm Lord, what level of world does Captain own? White Meng Meng glanced at Night Sorrow. She was from the 9-tailed fox clan and naturally knew the coldness of a Realm Lord. It's a high-level world that is already developing towards a great world. However, it still needs time because the 9 regions world has only been formed for a short period of time. You heard it just now, it's only been tens of thousands of years, Night Sorrow said with a smile. White Meng Meng, let me tell you this. Although the Nine Regions world has only been formed for a short period of time, it is indeed the most beautiful world I have ever seen. The environment is beautiful and the life is filled with moral beauty. It is truly a peaceful place, Tianyu said. Then if you have time, let's go visit Captain's world. White Meng Meng and the others were interested. The Nine Regions world has the best tea, the best wine, and the most beautiful scenery. Tianyu, you haven't returned to the city in the sky for a while. The city in the sky is getting more and more beautiful. It's cloudy in the morning, sunny at noon, and sparkling at night. Night Sorrow said with a smile. Seeing Night Sorrow's smiling face, White Meng Meng and the others asked about the city in the sky. Tianyu told them about the creation and history of the city in the sky. After listening to Tianyu's explanation, everyone was filled with curiosity about the Nine Regions world. Battles could happen anytime and anywhere. They weren't a match for the Emperor realm. Night Sorrow just watched. Now, the First Leader's team was still in the run-in stage. In a situation where there was no fatal threat, it was best to train the team. Night Sorrow's main body was cultivating his domain in the acceleration of the time-space treasure pagoda. With the experience of fusing domains in the past and the control of the power of virtue, Night Sorrow's domain fusion wasn't difficult. He just had to find some points of convergence to make his domain more powerful. All he needed was time. There weren't any bottlenecks. As the battle progressed, the First Leader's team became more and more compatible. However, they often quarreled with each other. Flower Without Words, who loved to stir up trouble, was often the target of attacks. His ability to organize his words wasn't good. However, when he was counterattacked and beaten up, he just laughed heartily. He could bite whoever he wanted. He had a tolerant heart, and he knew that everyone had taken care of him during this period of time. A harmless attack was also a kind of warmth. The spiritual tree race had a high affinity with medicinal herbs and were all experts in alchemy. However, they weren't good at smithing and array Dao. Therefore, when it came to cultivating array combination attacks, everyone was very accommodating to him. Captain, you don't know, right? Flower Without Words is truly magnanimous. This troublemaker is the grandson of the spiritual tree race's chief. Many years ago, I followed an elder to the spiritual tree race, so I know him. Can't you tell how shameless this guy is? After setting up camp, White Meng Meng, who had run over to drink tea with Night Sorrow, said. Spiritual tree race's direct descendant. I really couldn't tell. However, it also shows that the spiritual tree race's benevolent and tolerant heart is indeed worthy of their reputation. After hearing White Meng Meng's words, Night Sorrow was astonished. Yes, so the spiritual tree race is very respected in the 100 Races Alliance. White Meng Meng nodded. Meng Meng, has Yimei been doing well in your nine-tailed fox clan these past few years? Is her surname really that important? Night Sorrow looked at White Meng Meng and asked. Yimei is different from me and bilingual. Our living ancestors are the elders of the nine-tailed fox clan, and her ancestor is the chief of the nine-tailed fox clan. We don't know about her surname. An elder mentioned it before, but I think that if the clan really minded, the chief would speak up. However, the chief hasn't mentioned it yet, White Meng Meng said. Chapter 1874. Captain, you don't have to think too much. This matter is not that serious. Those who care about her will not force her to do things she doesn't like, White Meng Meng said. She envied Night Mei because she had a brother like Night Sorrow. At this time, Night Sorrow did not pay attention to what White Meng Meng said. Instead, he was feeling the human emperor's seal. The human emperor's seal had recognized him as its master, so it would not tremble for no reason. He was just a little emotional just now. When the human emperor's seal reacted to his energy, he would continue to pour energy into it. With the infusion of Night Sorrow's merit power, the human emperor's seal trembled again. A feeling appeared in Night Sorrow's heart. Although it was not clear, Night Sorrow could understand that something related to the human emperor's seal had appeared. Night Sorrow could also confirm the direction. Okay. Night Sorrow waved his arm. Captain, what's wrong? White Mang Mang was a little puzzled. She felt that there was nothing wrong with her words. Why did Night Sorrow suddenly seem to be stimulated? I found something. You are right. Those who care about Night May will not force her to do things she doesn't like. Night Sorrow nodded. After camping for a night, they set off again. Before setting off, Night Sorrow gave Bai Lingling and Zhongjiu a direction to explore. That was the direction he felt. Although they did not know why Night Sorrow suddenly pointed out the direction, Bai Lingling and Zhongjiu did not ask. They began to explore in the direction that Night Sorrow had pointed out. Usually, they would talk and laugh, but at this time, Night Sorrow gave an order. They could only execute it and could not question it. As they moved forward, they encountered more and more dragon-headed people. Not only dragon-headed people, but also other mutated races. After identification, Night Sorrow and others could confirm that they were the descendants of the Demon Wing clan and other races. Different bloodlines meant different things. Some were good at soul attacks, and some were good at head-on attacks. After traveling for a day, they camped again and drank. Everyone talked about what happened during the day. Today's exploration was more difficult. There were too many monsters. They were all blocking the way. There were also small teams, Bai Lingling said. Do you think you've chosen the wrong direction today? Night Sorrow looked at Bai Lingling. No, I just find it strange. Bai Lingling shook her head. I think we've chosen the right route today. We're looking for a key location, which means it's a strange place. It would be strange if there weren't any obstacles blocking our way. The more difficult it is, the closer we are to our goal, Flower Without Words said. It's rare for you to be smart for once. Night Sorrow stood up and left the bonfire, returning to his tent. Now you know how to take advantage of the situation. Bai Lingling looked at Flower Without Words with dissatisfaction. It's not that I didn't take advantage of the situation. It's that you didn't find the problem. 2 days ago, when you and Zhongjiu went out to investigate, did the captain specify the direction? No way. Why were there so many demonic beasts blocking the way today? If you think it's a coincidence, then I won't say anything. Go to sleep. Flower Without Words stood up and stretched. You're on duty today. Zhuodong said to Flower Without Words, who was stretching. Flower Without Words' relaxed face suddenly froze, because she had to go to work. Night Sorrow sat cross-legged in the tent, deducing the combination of domains. It was a tense moment. Night Sorrow's original body and 9-domain doppelgangers were deducing and combining domains in the time acceleration. It was hard to say what kind of opponents they would encounter in the future. It was necessary for them to improve their battle strength to the best state. It was not a pity if they lost in the best state. They had the potential to develop their strength, but they would not be willing to lose or even be killed because they did not develop their strength. After listening to Flower Without Words' analysis, all the sergeants in the First Army knew that Night Sorrow would not make a decision for no reason. But no one asked, because what they needed to do during the battle was to carry out the orders. Lin Piaomiao was a little worried about Night Sorrow. His original body was cultivating beside the underworld river in the evil Punisher land, while his doppelgangers were in the 9-domain world. She could know the current situation of Night Sorrow from his doppelgangers. Lin Piaomiao was an emperor. Night Sorrow knew the moment she entered the transmission formation at the Moon and Star Lake. When Lin Piaomiao arrived at the city in the sky, Night Sorrow was already waiting for her by the lake. It seems that everything is fine. Lin Piao was relieved when she saw Night Sorrow. Sister Xian, you came at the right time. I have something to tell you. Go back and tell the Grand Elder. Night Sorrow told Lin Piao about the existence of the dragon-headed man and other demonic beasts with the bloodline of the Demon Wing clan. The 100 races of the celestial realm are led by the human race to resist the invasion of the Demon Wing clan. They are extremely repulsed by the Demon Wing clan. It's impossible for them to procreate with them. This doesn't make sense. Lin Piao frowned. That's why I want to see what the Grand Elder has to say. Night Sorrow said. The two of them talked for a while before Lin Piao left. After Lin Piao left, Night Sorrow's doppelganger entered the sub-body of the Haotian godly pagoda to study and deduce the fusion of domains. In the heavenly desolate city, the Grand Elder was stunned when he received the news from Lin Piao. He forgot that there was such an advantage. There were too few cultivators in the world who had 3 doppelgangers. Night Sorrow was one of them. This was very rare. Under such circumstances, he could send messages anytime. After receiving the news from Night Sorrow, the Grand Elder went to find the heavenly desolate city's city lord and the two of them talked. Dragon-headed people and snake-headed people. Does this have something to do with them standing on the side of the Demon Wing clan? The Grand Elder couldn't figure it out. There are a lot of them. This means that it's a new race inheritance. It's nothing now. If there's a war, it's very likely that they'll stand against us. The heavenly desolate city lord, Tran Hung, said. After the Demon Wing clan entered the reincarnation battlefield, they had an advantage over us because of their bloodline. The Grand Elder said worriedly. Yes. However, it'll take some time for the Demon Wing clan to lead a race that has survived alone in the reincarnation battlefield for 8 eras. I believe in Night Sorrow. Tran Hung said. The Grand Elder nodded. I don't know if the Golden Dragon King has gone to the Black Dragon King. Why would the Black Dragons want to be enemies with the 100 Races Alliance? It's really puzzling. The Black Dragons have to be dealt with. We'll wait for news from the Golden Dragon King. If the Black Dragons insist on having their own way, then we'll cooperate with Chirue and get rid of the Black Dragons. A race that can combine with the Demon Wing clan shouldn't exist in the celestial realm. The same goes for the snake-headed people. We've tolerated them too many times. Tran Hung's eyes were cold. If it were just the Black Dragons, the 100 Races Alliance would have already taken action and even exterminated them. However, there were other races among the dragons. Although they were dissatisfied with the Black Dragons and had opinions, if the Black Dragons were exterminated, they would also be in a difficult position. The situation was like pulling one hair and affecting the whole body. Night Sorrow led the team forward. The team was closer to the 2 spies because the battle could break out at any time. Chapter 1875. First issue of original Night Sorrow felt that the direction might be right. Then, there would be demonic beasts that could know the situation at the core of the reincarnation battlefield. If they could capture it alive and dig out something from its mouth, the following actions would be easier. In order to capture this dragon-headed man alive, Night Sorrow changed his tactics. He did not use soul attacks. Instead, he relied on the strength of his body and strength to pin this emperor-level dragon-headed man to the ground. Seeing that Night Sorrow had succeeded, the others came up to help Night Sorrow control the dragon-headed man. However, just as Night Sorrow was about to ask something, the dragon-headed man self-destructed. Fortunately, Night Sorrow and the others discovered it in time. When the dragon-headed man's eyes turned red and the scales on his head stood up, they retreated to avoid it. As a result, the dragon-headed man's self-destruction did not cause any harm to Night Sorrow and the others. Bastards have such backbone. Long Jean scolded. It seems that the shortcut is not so easy to take. It's not easy to get information, Night Sorrow said. Captain, capture another one. Everyone, control it. Let Meng Meng and I use soul illusions to see if we can open its memory. Maybe we can get the information we want, Bai Lingling said. Okay, there is pitifully little information on the reincarnation battlefield. No matter who comes in, they will be in the dark. If we can find out some information, then we will have the upper hand, Night Sorrow said. In fact, among the 3 teams that had entered the reincarnation battlefield, only the first team led by Night Sorrow had an advantage. Because of the human emperor's seal, he had a general direction. At the end of the previous reincarnation, Mo Tianji had entered the reincarnation battlefield with the elites of the Demon Wing clan led by the demon ancestor. However, she was an emperor at that time and did not really participate in the battle. Therefore, she had not even reached the core of the reincarnation battlefield. She had some understanding of the environment, but the location of the reincarnation battlefield after opening the space-time tunnel was not fixed. Her past memories were useless. Even if she had a vague impression, she had to find a reference object in her memory to compare. As for the black dragons and the flying serpents, they were even more clueless. They were looking for things in the chaos and came with a mission. At this time, in an ordinary tea house in the ethereal imperial city, a woman in a cloak was drinking tea and paying attention to the night moon villa. Her aura was restrained, just like an ordinary person. But she was not. She was the emperor, the black dragon princess, dragon language. She was very talented. After she arrived in the celestial realm, she had accumulated. After she reached the celestial realm. She was very. Dragon language struggled because she had to make a choice. In the end, she chose Night Sorrow because her life was saved by Night Sorrow. If Night Sorrow did not save her, she might have been skinned alive by Ling Qianhui. But after waiting for a while near the Night Moon Villa, Dragon Language did not see Night Sorrow appear. But she still waited patiently. In her heart, Night Sorrow was a trustworthy person. Night Sorrow led the first team of soldiers and kept moving forward. They moved in the direction he sensed. Along the way, they met a king-class dragon head man. Night Sorrow subdued him and pressed his body down. Bai Lingling used her illusion and soul power to check the spirit ocean of this king-class dragon head man. After a while, Bai Lingling looked at Night Sorrow and said, "Captain, there is nothing valuable in this guy's memory. He has been living and cultivating in this area since he could remember. Captain, they are not natural creatures, so they must have parents. It doesn't make sense that they don't even have the memory of their parents. The only explanation is that their memory has been sealed. If a king-class dragon head man can't do it, let's find an imperial-class dragon head man. The imperial-class dragon head man must have a complete memory," Long Jean said. "Then let's continue. It's a kind of pressure to have a mission. After we finish the mission, we can do whatever we want," Night Sorrow said. "What should we do with him?" Bai Lingling looked at the unconscious dragon head man and asked. "Don't worry about him. Let him fend for himself," Night Sorrow said and walked forward. "Why don't we kill him?" Tiger Cold looked at Swadong and Long Jean and asked. "Kill him? For what reason?" "I don't know. He didn't attack us. We caught him first." Long Jean stood up and followed Night Sorrow. "Because he is a dragon head man." "No. A dragon head man doesn't deserve to die. Forget it." Tiger Cold shook his head and followed the team. Sometimes you didn't need a reason to do something. Sometimes you did. The difference was that you followed your heart. For example, Night Sorrow would kill anyone who wanted to bully the people around him without asking for a reason. However, Night Sorrow didn't think it was appropriate to kill someone who had no enmity with him. There had to be a proper reason to kill him. What happened this time was not a big deal, but it changed the sergeants of the First Army's opinion of Knight Sorrow. He was principled and wouldn't bully his opponents just because they were weak. After marching forward for half a day, Chongjio found a group of dragon-head men. Seeing that they were all at the Imperial Emperor realm, he led them to Knight Sorrow's team. The First Army's team fought together. The might of their joint formation showed. Without any suspense, they decided the direction of the battle. This time, Knight Sorrow didn't kill anyone. He only knocked one out with a golden brick. Then, he, Long Jin, and Tianyu held down a 4-star Emperor Realm dragon-headed man, an early-stage Imperial Emperor. Then, they got Bai Lingling and Bai Mengmeng to prepare illusions. Damn it! You are all seeking death. Our king will kill you, the suppressed dragon-headed man roared. Then, energy surged in his body and he was about to self-destruct. How could Knight Sorrow let him self-destruct? He waved his hand and punched the dragon-headed man's head, making him dizzy and causing the energy in his body to dissipate. Then, he nodded to Bai Lingling. The moment Bai Lingling executed her illusions, the dragon-headed man resisted with all his might. He also executed his soul defense. It's useless to struggle. Knight Sorrow waved his hand and punched again. After being hit in the head by Knight Sorrow's fist, the dragon-headed man was dizzy. Naturally, the circulation of his soul power wasn't coherent and smooth. Bai Lingling's soul power took the opportunity to invade the dragon-headed man's divine sea. However, the dragon-headed man's subconscious resistance was still there. Seeing Bai Lingling frown, Knight Sorrow's right fist knocked on the dragon-headed man's head. This made the soldiers of the First Army who were watching from the side shiver. His methods were too vicious. If he fell into the hands of Knight Sorrow, Long Jin, and Tianyu, he wouldn't be able to die even if he wanted to. The most tragic Imperial Emperor in history, Qi Jing said. No, he doesn't count. The Green Rock Race's Heaven's Horizon is. He bullied Tianyu and angered the captain. The result was tragic. His doppelganger's head was smashed and then he was taken away, Bai Lingling said. Smashing his head is better than being knocked on the head again and again, Qi Jing said. He had been in the First Army's encampment all this time. He really didn't know about the competition for the first vanguard of the 100 Races Alliance. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.